Hello and welcome to On The Esky. Another one of our lockdown series because we unfortunately are still stuck. The boys are back. I've got Peps and Monks as always. And we've got a big show planned. We want to talk about first week of the NFL preseason. There's AFL Round 23 and NRL Round 23 as well. There's a whole bunch of other sports, especially the EPL just kicked off too. And a little bit of UFC and golf news. But we'll get into it in a second. A little bit of cricket news. But before we get into that, how you boys doing? How's your week been of sport so far?
Yeah, good.
Not too bad.
Long time no see for us. Obviously, did that video yesterday regarding the England-India Test match. So long time between drinks for us boys, but 24 hours to seen your ugly mugs.
You, Mark?
That's it. Yeah, no, been good. Just surviving lockdown. Just trying to catch as much sport as I can in between work. It hasn't been too bad.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, I think we'll kick off with our usual segment of Shout a Beer. Peppy, did you want to go first? Because you had a pretty big one.
Yeah, big one. As a Carlton fan and as a footy fan, Eddie Betts announced during the week that he will be hanging up the boots after this weekend's clash. It also will be his 350th this weekend. So a milestone game followed by a retirement. He's the third Indigenous player to reach 350 games after Sean Burgoyne and Adam Goods. Three-time All-Australian, 638 goals. That's fifth amongst active players. And, a Carlton legend, or, Adelaide Crows legend, I guess, was there for a fair bit. One of the best goal sneaks of the modern era. He'll be sorely missed. I will shout Eddie a beer, and I hope he has several this weekend after the Giants game to sort of commemorate a great career.
Definitely,
yeah.
Monkey?
I'll go next. Yeah, sure. I'm going to shout a beer to Valtteri Bottas. We haven't had too much F1 news lately, so I thought I'd give F1 a shout. We actually do have a little bit later on in the podcast, but this has got nothing to do with F1. Shouting him a beer for entering his second cycling competition ever. It was the SBT gravel cycling race up at Steamboat Springs, Colorado. Came second in his he came fifth overall and second in his age group. Just an easy 64-mile race. That's 100 Ks for anyone out there who wants to know. Elevation was about 300 meters, I think, as well. So it's probably going to be
as in the gain in the race. 300 meters.
The up and down. Yeah. So so probably some sort of craft beer, some IPA, sort of hipster beer. Considering a cycling scene, but yeah, Valtteri Bottas. Next beer's on me.
They're all going to cruise in a flock with their cycling shoes still attached and really bring a lot of attention to themselves. Order a few IPAs and get out of there.
That's it. Either that or maybe like a cappuccino or a long black or something.
I reckon Valtteri might have, mate. Colorado, home of Coors, the Coors Brewery down the road from Steamboat Springs. There, maybe he'll settle in and knock back.
Isn't Valtteri? He's Finnish, isn't he?
Finnish, yeah.
Yeah, he is Finnish. Yeah.
I'm assuming that like a couple of beers.
Mate, by all accounts, love a grog. I think it's they're a bit more spirits based up there in Finland, but maybe he starts on the amber stuff before he gets wild.
Maybe. Should point out as well, I guess cycling is like, I suppose with any endurance race like F1's a massive training sort of thing for them. So yeah, no real surprise that he's done so well, but awesome effort nonetheless.
For sure.
Yeah.
Which I think leaves me, yes. So I've got Hansel Emmanuel, or Manuel, 17-year-old Dominican basketball player from Life Christian Academy, has received a Div 1 scholarship offer to go to Tennessee State to play basketball. Why is this newsworthy? Why is this worthy of shouting a beer or soda, considering he's bit underage. For over
I
there.
won't tell anyone.
Yeah. Is the fact that he's only got one arm. He had an arm amputated as a child following an accident. So he's a massive lad by all accounts. And to get a D1 scholarship as a basketball player with only one arm is really, really impressive.
It's so unbelievable, isn't it? To Division One, the amount of guys that play basketball and the amount of guys that just make it Division One college. Yeah, the fact that he's gone there as an amputee is unreal. Can't wait to keep an eye on him and see how he goes. Maybe he can lend Ben Simmons some shooting advice.
Maybe.
But in all seriousness, that's awesome. That's awesome that he's been able to do that. And I imagine, don't quote me, but I imagine the first ever, amputee to make a D1 squad or get offered a Division 1 scholarship, I should say.
Yeah, I wouldn't doubt that at all. Okay, boys. So to kick it off, we're going to talk some cricket. As I mentioned before, we did a video yesterday on the India-England series and also what was happening in West Indies versus Pakistan and in their first test. So if you want to know about those, go check that video out. That, of course, is on our channel. But today, the big news in the cricket was the announcement of the T20 World Cup squad for Australia. They've confirmed that coming up. Monks, do you want to run us through this squad that they've picked?
Yeah, sure. So, like you said, announced today. So, in no particular order, we've got Finchy captaining and Pat Cummins vice captaining. Then, following on from them, we've got Ashton Agar, Josh Hazlewood, Josh Inglis, Mitch Marsh, Glenn Maxwell, Kane Richardson, Steve Smith, Mitch Stark, Mitch Swepson, Matt Wade, Davey Warner, and Adam Zampa, with travelling reserves in Dan Christensen, Nathan Ellis, and Daniel Sams. What do you think about that team?
Yeah, not too many surprises. I think the obvious omissions would be cute boy Josh Philippi and Moses Enriques. They really did struggle in those series against Bangladesh and the West Indies. We were harping on it a fair bit on the podcast. Definitely big advocates for Philippi after his Big Bash form, and I'm a big fan of Moses Enriques, but had ample opportunity to make this squad and unfortunately didn't come through with runs. So look, they're probably the most notable names to miss out, but given their form, probably not the biggest surprise. Steve Smith there was some conjecture regarding his elbow injury, if he would be good to go. A lot of people were saying, fucking don't worry about it. It's a T20 comp. It's not Steve Smith's forte. Let's make sure he's right for the Ashes. I think I'd rather see him in this squad and get, even if it is just white ball cricket, just to see how his body goes and make sure that he is good to go for the Ashes. But they're probably the biggest talking points for mine. Sean, any surprises there for you?
Not really, not at all. I think, as you mentioned, Philippi and Enriques were the kind of the guys that we wanted to push for selection, and I think they've both been picked, of course, by Mitch Marsh with his form and how he played in those series. They'll definitely get in there.
Banged the door, didn't he?
Yeah. What do you think of who would be your batsman? What's your lineup from that squad they picked there?
Well, if we wanted to pick an 11, I think it probably most positions pick themselves. You're probably opening here with Finch and Warner. Do they keep Mitch Marsh at 3, considering the form that he's had batting that position, or do they go with Smudge? It's probably some kind of iteration of that. Then in the middle order, you've got Maxi and Stoinis coming back. I think they pick themselves. And then, who gets the keeping nod? That's a big question. They've gone with Wade and they've gone with Inglis. So you'd imagine one of them gets the nod. Probably Wade. So maybe he bats 6 and Stoinis 7. It'd probably depend on the situation. And then I think your frontline bowling lineup is probably Cummins, Hazlewood, Stark, and Zampa.
Yeah. Those 4 pick themselves. So I was just interested in seeing what your thoughts were on the batting lineup, and who you think would open, and whether Wade gets moved because he opens in the T20.
Yeah. Well, that's right. Yeah, I think that's your 11. The order, probably subject to the stage of the game. Yeah, amongst some notable guys probably to miss out in terms of bowling in Jason Behrendorff, AJ Ty, and Jai Richardson there, but. Yeah, it's tough because they only get to pick 14 in the squad, and then you can have three travelling reserves. So I suppose Nathan Ellis and Dan Sams as a travelling reserves there with Dan Christian. Maybe a little bit of surprise around those picks, but I think pretty straightforward this squad, and I think our best 11's pretty straightforward too.
Yeah, as we are talking about before, like these are the only blokes we can really pick. There isn't a huge amount of depth.
No, yeah, the depth.
It's probably a little bit better in white ball cricket versus the red, but even still, we don't have shitloads of guys floating around.
Given these last two series against Bangladesh and the West Indies, Bangladesh, mind you, they're not even in the 8 that get to skip the first round. So they've got to go out and play another 3 games before we even enter the competition. So they're not even guaranteed a spot. They should cruise through those qualifiers. But the fact that we got pants by them 4-1, leading into only a few months out from a World Cup, it's pretty concerning as an Aussie cricket fan.
True, but I would say I think there's been 6 or 7 changes from that squad, potentially of 11 to what will actually be in the World Cup.
So who have we got coming in? Warner, Finch, Cummins, Maxwell, Stoinis. That's it. I think so 5 big names to come in. So you'd be hoping that all of those guys managed to turn around some pretty dismal performances of late.
Yeah, definitely. Any other thoughts on cricket? Anything else happening in the cricket world?
Nothing comes to mind. Got the 3rd test coming up, but that's not till next week between England and India. I think West Indies, Pakistan, 2nd test. I think that starts Saturday. So we'll be able to keep an eye on that before England and India go at it in the 3rd test at Leeds there.
Yeah. I suppose also we'll keep talking about it as we lead into, but T20 World Cup starts 17th of October. First match is Oman against Papua New Guinea, so I'm sure a lot of people will be tuning in on that. But yeah, we'll keep following that as we get closer.
Is IPL this weekend?
No, it's still a while away. It's September something. The IPL start date is that the first week of September? Second week of September. It's still a while away.
Close.
Yeah.
Definitely, it is coming up, and there is minimal overlap between the Indian tour of England and the IPL.
Yeah, that's right. I remember that now.
Yeah. Have you got a date for us there, Marks? It's mid-September.
Can't find one for us.
Oh.
20th September, sorry.
20th. There you go.
Yeah, my first game back. But yeah.
A month away.
A month from tomorrow for us. So
Plenty of time to go.
That's it.
Alrighty then.
All right. Well,
moving on.
The old Esky segue between cricket and the NFL.
Yes. Give me 2 seconds.
Keeping it semi-international.
Got the Broncos hat out of nowhere there. Like Sean.
Dressed appropriately. I had nothing Broncos on, so I had to confirm it up. So
yeah, I hadn't thought of that. It's pretty unusual for you to not to be rocking any mile high merchandise.
Yeah, there you go. It was in within arm reach, so I thought I'd whack it on. There you go.
Very good. Would you like to run us through the NFL news stories?
Yeah, well, kind of 3 over the last week since the last pod. There's also been a full round of preseason games as well to cover. What was kind of interesting, I think, is Joe, how do you say his last name? Schobert?
Yeah, Schobert. Yeah.
Yeah. Inside linebacker, played for Who did he play for? Browns.
I
And
think
then he got
Cleveland
signed.
or Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Yeah, and then went to Jacksonville on a big deal, 5-year, $54 million deal, and then he got traded in his second year. So in his second year, he's off to the Steelers.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think he ended up rating pretty poorly, if you believe the PF.
PFF.
Yeah, PFF. Yeah. Pro Football something or other. So rated pretty lowly. So I think the Jags were just looking to move his deal. And Pittsburgh, I think Devin Bush for them is coming off an ACL or a knee-related injury. So a bit of backup for them. So that's not a bad get. And hopefully they can kind of rebuild him behind a very good front seven. And then the big one, this kind of kicked off early in the week for Jamal Adams, where they were he was kicking up a stink about, hey, if you tag me as a safety, I'm actually a linebacker, and there's about a $4 million euro difference on the tag between those two positions. But he did end up getting paid. He got a 4-year deal to become the highest paid safety, which is kind of fun with how that
Safety in inverted commas.
But yeah, he's not really a safety. I think he played almost 400 snaps out of like a linebacker position last year. So he's the definition of the hybrid for the Seahawks. But they've signed him up long term on a big deal. So he's staying put.
Do you know how many career interceptions he has?
Oh, not off the top of my head. 20?
2.
There you go. Not even close.
2. I saw a little meme during the week. You remember Vince Wilfork, big defensive tackle from the Patriots? I think won 3 Super Bowl rings with them. He has 3. Not known for his coverage, known as being a hard hitting hybrid type, and just gets bulk sacks, considering he's meant to be a safety. But definitely comes down and plays as that 8th man in the box, and he's got himself a massive deal there. So the Seahawks trying to channel the old Legion of Boom and get I don't want to say Cam Chancellor, kind of different, but that's probably.
I was thinking the same thing. So
that's probably the comparison that comes to mind.
And the final bit of news before we get into reviewing some of the games was there's some chat during the week about Usain Bolt trying to do a race against Tyreek Hill. He said, I'd happily race him. I'll put one of my gold medals on it as long as he put up one of his Super Bowl rings. Super Bowl, Bowl even said he'd give him a little bit of a head start. So I don't think Tyreek Hill even gets within, say, 10 meters, even with a retired Bolt. He's just that fast.
10 meters is a long way, but yeah, you have to give him a huge head start for one. And for two, I don't know if this is a fair wager. Those Super Bowl rings, we were talking about Tom Brady and the Bucks one. Mate, they must be worth about $500,000 each. And these gold medals, I don't know if you can melt the gold down, but I'm
not sure they're even made of gold.
I don't know if it's like this wager here from you, Sane.
Yeah. Well, the other thing is Bolt's got 3 golds.
He's got 3.
He's got multiple others.
9. He's got 9 total, I'm pretty sure. So
he's just like, I'll pull out this 200 I won 3 Olympics ago, and like, you can have that one. Tyreek's unfortunately only got 1 Super Bowl ring.
Yeah, that's right. Right. Maybe he should wager all 9 of his gold medals. To be honest, I'm surprised this made the cut for our NFL news, and we probably on that.
I think let's the wager. The actual race is, I think, the thing that interests me. Seeing a guy that's considered probably one of the fastest, if not the fastest, wide receiver in the NFL, going up against the fastest man in the world at Gus Gould. So
that's not named Josh Adokar.
Yeah, exactly. Just to kind of show. Even a retired guy that hasn't done professional running for 4 years, let's say, could probably still go out there and smoke the fastest wide receiver in the NFL.
Easily. Like you have to be giving him a massive head start. We saw how DK Metcalf went in the trials in the 100 meters for trying to make the Tokyo Olympics. They're different games. Like NFL fast is not sprinting fast. They're superhuman athletes. It's amazing that DK even considered giving that a crack. But guys that have trained their whole life to run 100 metres really quick compared to guys that train to play football, it's not quite the same.
Agree. So with that, let's have a run through some of these preseason games. And we'll kick off the Steelers versus the Eagles. Bit of Eagles news. So Hurts played a little bit and then gave way to Flacco. I don't think Flacco's going to push Hurts at all for this team. He did have that nice little screen to, was it Watkins? I think it was. Went 80. Was it?
No, I don't. No.
Not Sam, and we're not talking Sammy Watkins. We're talking Quinn Watkins. I think it was. Something.
Possibly.
Yeah. Anyway, another young rookie coming through, got wheels. But the big story I think of this one was probably Dwayne Haskins actually being impressive. Like, I saw some jokes here that Mike Tomlin will turn Haskins around and he'll win more Super Bowls than Ben Roethlisberger did with the Steelers. As like, that would be pretty classic. But you know, he had talent.
Ben's got he's got a 2-ring head start there.
Yeah.
It was interesting though. Again, only one game. Not a massive sample size there. But
preseason at that as well.
And preseason, that's right. I can't imagine too many of the Eagles starters were lining up against him on defense.
I don't think anyone played. Only like 1 or 2 teams played like a couple series with any ones.
Yeah.
Almost Universal was 2s down across the entire league. So yeah, it was not a lot of stuff.
But you do have to think Big Ben is, I think, 38 going on 39 this year. His body's obviously a lot slower than it used to be. It'll be Dwayne Haskins and Mason Rudolph fighting out for the backup position there. But it wouldn't surprise me if sometime during the year, depending on how Big Ben goes, or, of course, if there's an injury, if Dwayne Haskins doesn't get his name called to be the starting quarterback for the Pittsburgh Steelers.
And there's a little bit of injury scare for Steelers today as well. I think Chase Claypool had to leave training with a bit of an injury, but I think he's okay. They were just
they're saying I think it's just a rolled ankle. There was some footage of him getting carried to the sideline, I think on the arms of Big Ben and Juju perhaps. But yeah, I think all reports are that he's okay.
Perhaps you want to run us through Patriots taking on the football team?
Yeah, in terms of a football game, not that interesting in terms of what's going to go on in the season, especially from the point of who will be the starting quarterback for the New England Patriots. Really quite interesting. Mac Jones played about half of this game. He had 13 of 19 for 87 yards. The thing that impressed me the most was his quick release. He stands in the pocket and he gets rid of it really, really quickly. Cam didn't play too much. The question for me is not will Mac Jones be a starting quarterback this season. I think he gets the role from Cam at some stage. The question is, does he start week 1 or is it a little bit down the track?
I would have said it might have depended on what the team was doing, because I think they're trying to potentially recreate the double tight end Tom Brady offense, getting Smith and Hunter over there. Hunter
Henry, Jono Smith.
Yeah. Unfortunately, both are injured at the moment, so that probably doesn't help their cases. So they may want to pound the ball a bit more because they don't have great receiving options outside of those 2 blokes. Anyway,
I was having a look. Their receiving core is very ordinary. They picked up Nelson Aguilar and Kendrick Bourne, I believe, in the off season to go along there with N'Keal Harry.
I think Myers was the other one.
Jacoby Myers, who's sort of been a return specialist over the past few years, but not really proven as a receiver. That's one of the weaker, if not the weakest, receiving cores in the NFL. And with with both Hunter Henry and Jono Smith unavailable this preseason, you'd really think that the running backs will have a big role, which is a nice little segue into Ramondre Stevenson, who looked really good out of the backfield there for the Patriots. He had 10 carries, 127 yards for 2 touchdowns. He's a 4th round pick out of Oklahoma. he'll be trying to make this squad to go along with the likes of Damian Harris, who's projected to be the starter, James White, Super Bowl maestro, and Sony PlayStation Michelle. We do know that Bill Belichick loves a running back via committee. So Ramondre Stevenson putting his hand up to be the fourth running back in that committee.
Yep. Yeah. And I think finalize that point, if they're going to be more of a running team than a passing team, probably what helps that situation is a running quarterback. So, which kind of fits well to let's run more option with Cam and do kind of what they did last year, I'd say, to a fair amount.
Yeah.
Go. You go.
I was going to say, once they get the tight end boys healthy, maybe that's a month in and they're probably 0-4 at that point. I don't think the Patriots are going to be their defense, I think, is going to be better this year with all the opt-outs and the guys back. But I don't think they're red hot like they were. But they could start poorly. And at that point, if they're getting healthy, got some receiving options, they'll probably hand it over to Mac and say, do what you can with what we've got in front of you. And we'll get you some receivers in the off-season.
Yeah, you'd think if Cam wasn't starting week 1, he probably would have been moved on by now. And they would have brought in someone else as a backup for Jones.
I think Hoyer's still there.
Hoyer's still there. He played a little bit.
Yeah, possibly as well. You might keep Cam around just in the fact that the guy's an NFL MVP. He's been to the Super Bowl, maybe just a little bit of veteran presence. Even if they do start Mac week 1, I'm sure having him around wouldn't be the worst thing there. The thing that I wonder is, and we'll get to New Orleans in a sec, is possibly if both have a role. Maybe they have Mac Jones as your starter, your pocket QB, and then you come down into the red zone, and when you're 5 yards out, you bring in a Cam Newton and make the defense consider what's going to happen there.
Here's an interesting thought for you. Maybe Cam needs to play wide receiver for him.
Maybe they're too tight, mate. He couldn't be any worse than Tim Tebow. Just have line it up next to your tackle.
He's got that. What is he? 6'4", 230, 240 pounds, runs quick.
And the rest, mate, he'll be right.
Just red zone threat. There you go.
For the football team, not too many starters played that much. Chase Young was very impressive in the couple of drives that he played, and they had Steve Montez under centre. He'll be juking it out. With Kyle Allen and Taylor Henneke for a backup role there.
Yeah, nothing too much to report back. Thanks to some chat there. Maybe Henneke could take some time away from Fitzmagic, but I think Fitzmagic's his role, and I don't think they're going to hand it over anytime soon.
Well, he must be getting on a little bit.
He's in his 40s. He's
38.
38. There you go.
Yeah. 38. Yeah.
Draft
so he's not quite old man Tom Brady yet, but 38 is no spring chicken, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Then we had Titans taking on the Falcons in the next match.
Mate, one of the most dud games you'll ever see, preseason or not. The Falcons had 21 passing yards as a team. The probably the talking point for this game was 5'8" undrafted free agent Mekhi Sargent. He had 16 carries for 58 yards for the Tennessee Titans. He'll be pushing to make this team kind of as a scat back option. I do see him making this final roster, considering that the King, Derrick Henry, doesn't really get involved that much in the passing game or at all, really. And we did see a small, shifty guy in Dion Lewis a few years ago back at Tennessee fulfilling that role. That was probably the talking point for mine. Just about no starters involved in this one whatsoever. We can probably move through to the Bills and Lions.
And interesting enough, they did use their new toy, Jared Goff, the Lions. He did get a couple of drives, did have an 18-play drive, finished 7 from 9 and 56 yards in total. So nothing major. I think they're kind of trying to work out their offense and their offensive weapons. I think Williams is their only kind of wide receiver of note at the moment. Veteran presence. Got a bunch of young guys too they're trying to bring along. But
Yeah, I was wondering that because obviously they lost Marvin Jones and Kenny Golladay in the off season. They must be pretty thin at wide receiver.
Yeah. So they got Terrell Williams over from the Raiders. He's their main one, and then a bunch of young fellas. I think St. Brown is one of the other ones they're kind of interested in, who's the brother of St. Brown, I think, that plays for the Packers.
Yeah, Equinemius, one of the more unusual first names that you get in the NFL. The Lion, mate, you can't see the Lions doing too much in that division this year, you'd think.
No, their team's just got too many holes at the moment.
Their defense has come along. But it's a really tough order there for the Ryan Gosling lookalike in Jared Goff at a new club this year with not many weapons at his disposal.
Nothing too much to write home about in the Cards versus Cowboys game because no notable starters really started in this.
Yeah.
There isn't really too many holes for guys to kind of make their way into these teams. Hard Knocks, though, has kicked off. I think they're up to about episode 3 now. Episode 3, I think.
I've caught the first one. I do believe the second one must have dropped this week. I didn't catch that. Mate, the whole story around Dak and rewatching that shock or horrific injury, I should say, back in the fourth round last year, and looking at the scars on his ankle, it was a nasty break, and they've definitely missed him. Do you think if he stays healthy, do you think they make the playoffs this year?
Well, I think they're pushing for a number one offense. I think they've got it with their wide receivers. Their line's pretty good. They still got Zeke back there, and they got to score 50 points a game. That's kind of what they were doing last year to try and win games. And then without Dak, they couldn't put points up. So the defense should be better. They drafted heavily on the defensive side.
It was their first 5 picks or something, wasn't it? All defensive players. Michael Parsons. Yeah, he's played a few series and has looked the goods. Their first round draft pick. That on paper their offense should be there or thereabouts for the best offense in the NFC.
Yeah, well, the other thing is they play an absolute shit division, so which means they probably only need to win 9 games, and I think they can do that easily. And they'll be in the playoffs, or 10 games this year.
Yeah, no,
their division probably 8. Bears Dolphins, big story. Justin Fields, his stats 14 from 20, 142 yards, 1 touchdown. Said it felt slow than he expected.
Yeah. That's what you want your rookie quarterback to say. Oh, yep, I've come up here, and to be honest, I was thinking it was going to be quicker. He looked very good, and I know again it's only a half of a preseason game, but everyone's been on his dick saying how good he looked, and maybe he might be able to bring a bit of joy to a very historically or recently disappointing franchise there. I don't know if you guys caught that show QB1. It's on Netflix. That actually, he was one of the quarterbacks on that, and is now, probably going to be a starting quarter. You'd think
they've got nothing else. They can't.
Andy Dalton, perhaps they give him a game or 2 at the start of the year, but you'd imagine it's Justin Fields' team. It was cool to watch him as a high schooler. Just a few years ago, and get a really in-depth look into his life, and now I think going to be the first starting quarterback to come out of that show.
Yep. Yeah, and he looks good. Only concern though, he was playing against 2s that weren't running any coverage, so come week 1, it is different. No schemes, no extra defensive game planning kind of going into the preseason games. So it probably looks slow now. Wait until you run into Pittsburgh and they're running all sorts of things at you, and you're like, holy fuck, what's going on? I'm seeing ghosts.
That's right. You got TJ Watt coming.
Yeah.
So the final kind of note from this is Tua also playing for the Finns, went 8 of 11, 99 yards. had a pretty poor intercept in the end zone after a really good drive.
Yep.
He did have some good completions. I think they're liking to see the progress he's making at the moment. Just made it a really poor decision on the intercept, double coverage, and I think on a post, and the safety just come across, took it away easy.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, they've got really nothing else there. One of the prime candidates, I think, that's been talking about Deshaun Watson, them and Eagles being the other one as well. But I think Hurts probably done enough. They really like him, all their kids over there. So two, on the other hand, as they're kind of thinking about whether they flip him down to Houston and replace him with Deshaun Watson with a whole bunch of picks, etc.
Who's the backup at the Finns? Who would get the job if Tua was to go?
Well, if they trade Deshaun Watson comes in, it would be Deshaun. But if
straight kind of trade with I'm with you. Yeah. My apologies. Sean, did you catch the Broncos Vikings game, and what was your thoughts on that?
I did, and it was probably, I think it was the biggest blowout from the round of preseason round week 1 games. Denver, though, I don't want to say they cheated, but they played, I think, the first 2 series with at least half of their starters.
Mm-hmm.
I think the problem was they wanted to get like some game time. They got Judy and Hamler. They wanted to give Locke, who started, who's one of the guys competing, was the quarterback, so like a starter. Give him some receiving options. The whole right side of the offensive line is kind of in conversations about who's going to start, who's going to play there. So they play center, right guard, and right tackle, who's probably going to be their starting offensive line as well. So they had talent there. They didn't play many of the massive stars on defense, though. But yeah, on the offense, they did that. And then Locke started off pretty well. They kind of dominated field possession and really went after the young Vikings team they put out there. Mike Zimmer, I think they famously did an interview at halftime and just got stuck into his team about how we played really terribly. We missed safety coverages. We did this. We're going to scrimmage all week with this group because they need to lift their game. So he wasn't impressed. I think Vikings played poorly, and Denver had played better, and then were on a tear. So they did end up doing pretty good. PS2, Patrick Surtain, the second, he looks good.
He had a pick 6.
Yeah. Out of 4 to that number, and then you kind of looked like Champ a little bit, running around there, big corner. So he looks like he's improved since he played at Alabama already. Like you can see, like he looks good. So we're interested to see how that kind of fits in. But the big story is Teddy versus Locke, who's going to be the quarterback. They both did well. I think Locke had the overall best quarterback rating for the week. And then Teddy was only like 10 points behind that. Like they both did well, and they 2s and 3s of the Vikings. So they'll flip it this week. Teddy will start against the Seahawks, and then Locke will come out after that. And then I think we might have an announcement on who the quarterback is. But from all accounts, it's still neck and neck.
Wow. Did you see much out of their second round pick, Javonte Williams, running back?
Yeah, looks good. I think he only got 5 carries, maybe 30-ish yards. Good carries. Did help that he had an offensive line that was opening up massive holes for him to run through. Having a fair few starters out there, so that did help him. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see how he goes. Melvin Gordon, I think, struggling a little bit with a calf injury at the moment, but he's their one essentially at this point. But I see Williams' usage probably expanding over the season. You don't pick a second round running back to not use him.
That's right. And these days, a second round running back is like, running backs don't tend to go early. He probably would have been one of the first cabs off the rank in the running back draft class for this year.
Well, yeah, he was 3rd behind Ente and Harris.
Harris, yep. Philip Lindsay, he went to Houston, didn't he? So maybe even some potential fantasy value around Javonte Williams.
Yeah, well, Lindsay's stuck in a battle with David Johnson and Mark Ingram. It seems like David Johnson's on the outside looking in at the moment. Seems like
it
does.
Lindsay had more carries, but whether that's just preseason week 1, like let's watch it for a couple more weeks and see who's going to be the starter there. That Houston team's going to get the first round pick next year. Let's put it that way. They stink.
You calling it early?
Yeah, they stink.
Yeah.
What are we up to? What's next? Ravens Saints.
Yeah. Well, we alluded to it earlier that the big story is who will be the starting quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. Obviously, no Drew Brees this season, so it's a battle between Taysom Hill, the world's most overpaid tight end, and Jameis Winston. Neither super impressive in this one. I think Taysom was 8 of 12 for 81 yards. Had a pick. He didn't run the ball at all. So I don't know if that was a deliberate thing from Sean Payton there to try and say, okay, well, we know how good you are with your legs. Let's see what you can do in the pocket. And then Jameis went 7 of 12 for 96 yards, a touchdown and a pick. The big question on it. Yeah, that's right. 30 for 30, 1 for 1. It all makes sense. The big question on everyone's lips in terms of the New Orleans Saints is who will be the starting quarterback week 1. Have you boys got any thoughts regarding that?
The competition for me comes very simply: who can hand off better to Kamara?
Or in Drew Brees fashion, check it down better now than Kamara.
Exactly. Yeah, that's got to be your game plan. Kamara for 400 touches this year, I reckon.
Yeah. Mark's thoughts?
That's a good question. It's so hard. I am a little bit of a fanboy of Taysom Hill. I don't mind him getting around the field. I don't know. You'd think Winston probably does edge it out as a passer. But yes, I reckon he'd probably start, see how consistent or inconsistent he is, and then I reckon it'd be a very quick change to Taysom.
Yep.
He doesn't prove himself.
I alluded to it earlier in the podcast. My personal opinion is I think Jameis gets the start here, and that Sean Payton, they've spent all this money on Taysom Hill. I think they utilise him in the red zone and some drawn up sort of Taysom packages. Whether that be on 3rd and short or certain situations where they can utilise a mobile quarterback. That's my take at the moment. I think Jameis will be their starting pocket guy, but they'll still rely heavily on the skills that Taysom provides.
Yep.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Ravens, on the other hand, nothing major news to come out from them, I think.
No starters really involved in this one. They did get the win, and I think they've won 18 of they've won 18 straight preseason games.
Yeah,
so
something ridiculous like that. I think also them
a testament to their depth. Maybe their backups are just really, really strong, or if it's something that Harbour tends to focus on. But it's a pretty amazing statistic. That's what four and a bit preseasons they haven't lost.
Yep. Yeah. I think they did lose. What was he? Rashad Bateman. Well, they lost that receiver
wide out
for about a month. I think he should be right for the start of the season, but he's a bit banged up at the moment too. Lamar's probably the big one. I think he's back from COVID too. Second.
Mm-hmm.
All right, let's talk Bears Jags, not Bears. Browns Jags. Dickhead.
Yeah, one of the more intriguing matchups here. A bloke called Trevor Lawrence. I'm sure any casual NFL fan has heard of him. The number 1 overall draft pick, going up against the Cleveland Browns, who by all accounts look to be improving on their efforts from last year. Lawrence, he played a few series. He went 6 of 9 for 71 yards. This Jacksonville offense should be really quite good, I would think. What do we reckon?
Talent at the skill positions. I think their line's probably what lets him down at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, they've got, as you got listed there, James Robinson, Carlos Hyde, their number 1 first round draft pick in Entente as well.
Etienne, I think Travis Etienne.
Etienne.
And then they added Marvin Jones, Philip Dorset, and Tavon Austin, and drafted Laviska Chenault. So that they've brought in 4 wide receivers, including second-round pick Chenault there. So DJ Shark will actually have a little bit of help there. They're stacked. Yeah. They're stacked at the skill positions. There's a lot of noise around Tim Tebow.
There's more talk about Tebow than anything else.
Yeah, essentially. And the poor bloke, he got cut. He didn't make the squad.
Yeah.
No.
I think he got 1 target, and I think Austin stole that and ran about 40 meters with that. So, yeah, there could have been a big Tebow run there, but it was a target for him. But Austin came across, stole it from him. Anyway, what was interesting in this game was Minshew. I think he only played a little bit, and I don't think he did it overly too well with his stats, because I think
he was 4 for 8, 47 yards, 1 interception.
Because I think the Jags really want to put good tape of him out there, because they want to move him. I would think they can't have him as the starter, and they've got to hand that team over to Lawrence. And they've got value in him. They want him to do well in the preseason, because a team like the Colts, maybe the Saints is an outside one. There's a few teams there that could do with some quarterbacks.
The Eagles, I don't know if Jalen Hurts is 100% ready to go as a starting an NFL quarterback.
But I don't think Minshew's a huge gain over Hurts. Like, he maybe want to see what Hurts got for a year. But someone like the Colts, who they've just lost Wentz, he's probably going to miss 3/4 of the season. They want him to put good tape on, so they can at least trade him to a team that's going to be desperate.
Yeah, get a bit of trade value.
Yeah, but for him to put up nothing really hurts their chances.
Yeah, not really helping himself. Do you reckon he's resigned to just being that backup quarterback?
No, he wants the starting job. He's competing.
Oh, I know he wants it, but do you reckon he's worth it somewhere else?
Yeah, he doesn't have. He's got quarterback Jesus in front of him. Like he's win that starting job. I don't think.
Oh yeah, definitely not the Jags. Yeah.
What about the Bengals and your team, Monks, the Bucks? Did you catch much of that game?
Yeah.
First question: why the fuck was Tom Brady playing in a preseason game?
He played a drive.
Got sacked, and they're like, "Get your ass out of there."
He threw a ball. The old 43-year-old. And then Kyle Trask was less than impressive. Monks, did you catch much of this?
No, unfortunately, I didn't catch much of it at all. Yeah, haven't really got much to say.
He was too busy recovering after seeing Tom Brady got sacked. So
yeah,
that's it.
Get him out.
That's it. Yeah, much like most of the other preseason games, weren't too many starters throughout the game. I think Blaine Gabbert ended up taking most of the snaps for the rest of the game.
How many sacks do you reckon Tom Brady's taken in his career?
In his whole career?
I reckon it's got to be around 500.
Well, how many seasons are we? He's in his 22nd season, 23rd season?
And that's 25 a season, is it?
Yeah, I think that's about average. I think that's probably unders.
Yeah, so, I think it's unders as well. So Black hasn't been injured that much. So
I think 500 is a pretty accurate call there. I can have a look at that if you boys want to continue to take the show away.
I've got it right here. 521.
There you go.
Right on, man. John. Well done.
Yeah.
Well, I'd like to say going over 500 sacks. I don't think one more is going to be risking too much.
Fair. Yeah.
He did do an ACL a decade ago, so I think he's going to be all right.
Yeah, that's right. He did his ACL a career ago.
Exactly. If you're a Bucks fan, all you got to worry about is Brady probably drinking too many of these while he's in Florida at the moment.
He just does
him
that
at that Hall of Fame speech. Some of the photos from it. Holy shit.
That's probably what's keeping him together. He's just knocking a few back, keeping loose on the field.
Anyway, for the Bengals, they had nothing too major. No Joe Burrow, of course. I think they're going to protect him. They had undrafted running back Patrick. He played in the XFL last year. He got plenty of action, 15 carries for 71 yards. I think that's Mixon's team, though. I don't think anyone's taken over Joe Mixon, who's coming back from an injury himself.
No, God no. But I think Patrick will make that squad. Is what. Yeah, and
no Bernard there anymore, so there's some room for some potential extra touches there to spell Mixon as well. In one of probably the shittest games of all time, and why we talk about how shit this division is. From Giants on one side, and then you got Jets with in their division too. But absolute snooze fetch between the Jets and Giants from New York. 12-7, both teams really struggled. Zach Wilson, not too bad, 6 of 9 for 63 yards. I think these teams were going to stink this year.
Yeah, but both of them are probably competing with the Houston Texans for the first overall draft pick in 2023 or 2022, I should say. The lows. The one point I wouldn't mind making is so this game was 12-7, and that was pretty indicative of the round. I can't remember preseasons being this low scoring. I don't know if it's a function of this year, and there being less preseason games, maybe the starters playing a little bit less. Did you boys notice that there was some particularly low scoring games in this round?
Yeah, and I think the Broncos game as well, for the guys that did play some starters, kind of showed the different levels there was to this. And I think you hit the nail on the head up. For whatever reason, this year in the preseason games, there's absolutely like no starters playing, essentially.
Yeah.
Whether that's kind of on the players, and they've kind of talked to their coaches, like it's a 17-game season now. We're going to have 17 really hard games. Rest us up. Maybe we'll play a series in the third game just to make sure we're all on the same page. But don't risk us, and especially the quarterbacks. No one wants to put quarterbacks out there. I think McVay was the classic one saying, while I'm a coach here, Matthew Stafford will not play a preseason game. So I think that's kind of the sentiment now.
Do you reckon that will lead into like a bit of a slow start into the season as those starters do get some game time under the belt?
Potentially, and we saw it a little bit last year when coming off essentially no training camps, lockdown. They did start off a bit slow for the first couple of weeks, maybe even the first month, but then everyone got real hot, and then they were going. So, I don't think it'd be too much of an issue, that much of an issue. What I did find interesting though is if you're watching your team and your clubs play, if you're watching the sidelines, because they like to show the sidelines a lot. If you want to pick out your unvaccinated players, they're the ones that have to wear masks on the sidelines.
Oh, for real?
So there you go. I kind of realized I was like, because watching the Broncos Vikings games, the Broncos are heavily vaccinated. I think. Who was it? One of the teams hit 100% vaccination during the week.
The Falcons, I'm pretty sure.
Falcons, yeah. But watching the Vikings, I was like, say, 80% of their players weren't wearing masks, and then there's a couple that were, and some of them big name players. Let's be honest. And I was just like, why are they doing that? And then it tweaked with me. They have to wear masks because that's their rules for them being unvaccinated players. So if you want to know who's not vaccinated on your team, they're wearing masks on the sideline.
On the sideline, but they can take it off when they go onto the field.
Most of the guys that were wearing masks were starters. So they weren't actually playing in this game, but
yeah, not this game, but once the season starts.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that all goes together. And
yeah, it is a bit of a evolving news story at the moment. So yeah.
Anyway. Let's wrap up these last few games. Chiefs 49ers. Mahomes had a drive, and then the Chiefs didn't really play any of their starters. The big story out of this one was Trey Lance. He only completed 5 of 14, but did
I've actually been looking for this because I can't remember if this is actually wrong. I thought it was 11 from 14, and I thought NFL website and they're actually recording. So I actually thought it was better than that. Because when I first wrote it down, I was like, "That's terrible stats." But everything I could find says it's 5 for 14.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he had that one big touchdown,
which was the big news that he had that 80-yarder.
Yeah, because he did throw for 128 yards, but if he had one huge,
it was 80 on one play.
Yeah.
Anyway, because 5 for 14, that makes you a little bit worried. Like he did have that one good, really bomb, but that's a pretty low completion percentage that you would be concerned about.
I think Jimmy G starts week 1. And I think Trey will be an understudy to him for a little bit. Whether or not he gets to go ahead sometimes this season, you'd probably think he does. I think out of the highly drafted rookie quarterbacks, I think he's the furthest off being a starter.
Yeah, considering he was the second picked.
Third overall.
I forgot there was 3 straight picks of quarterbacks.
That's right. Yeah. So Lawrence will start week 1. Zach Wilson will start week 1. Mac Jones, I think, will start before Trey Lance does, and I think Justin Fields will start before Trey Lance does. But how good? We're talking about 5 rookie quarterbacks that could potentially be starting in the first month of the NFL here. So definitely a lot to talk about in terms of new guys in the league, and really looking forward to the start of the season. As a Packers fan, pretty happy that Rodgers will be playing for Green Bay this year. He didn't take any part in this game. Jordan Love actually didn't look too bad. He had 12 of 17 for 122 yards in a loss against the Houston Texans. Make of that what you will. I know it is only the preseason. And there were a few other games, the Raiders and the Seahawks, the Rams and the best thing out of that Rams-Chargers game, that was a very low-scoring one, was the fight between 2 Los Angeles Rams fans in the stands. Have a look at that one on the YouTubes, if you will. And the Colts-Panthers game, there was a bit of a silly taunting penalty. Sean, did you see that one?
Yeah, I did. And this went to what we were talking about, I think, last week with the emphasis on taunting coming into the season. And I think the Giants owner came out and talked about it and said, hey, we don't want to see that stuff. So, the old white's not happy about taunting in the NFL, the no fun league.
What actually happened?
So
was it a
running back
point?
Was that?
Yeah, no, it was the running back. So he's kind of hit the line. He's got like 4 blokes on him, manages to like bust out of that and then get tackled after, say, a 10-yard first down.
Yeah.
So
a real hard nose sort of run up the middle.
Yeah, as he gets up, he does like a slight flex looking at the defender that's tackled him.
I did see this.
Yeah, realizes that, maybe I'll get done for this, turns around and then flexes again, facing away from the dude. But by the time the ref gone penalty. So
see.
And the players
that,
blew up, like other
I
players.
I don't know if flexing is taunting. Like,
no.
Yeah.
That's it. It's just like it's just you're celebrating to yourself. Like, come on, like you just made a huge hit, just got busted through the line, made 10 yards, made an awesome play, and
I hope they're not.
You stand up at the wrong direction and you're facing an opposition player and you flex on yourself, and that's a penalty. It's
I hope they don't adjudicate that too harshly this season. I think it might take away from the spectacle a little bit. I do think that sometimes it can be over the top in the NFL. When if you're scoring a touchdown and they're pointing at the defender that's chasing them, or Tyreek Hill, if you will, with the wave. I think they can make do with getting rid of that kind of behaviour. But you pumped up a little bit of a flex. I don't think that hurt anyone. So it'll be interesting to see how they adjudicate that.
I don't mind like the Tyreek Hill type of thing. It's probably, I think, what they should be stamping out is like some guys just laid someone out, got a concussion, and standing over him and celebrating that. Like, I think that definitely needs to be cut out of the game. But celebrating on your way to a touchdown, like that's just a part of the spectacle of the game. Like, it's fun watching that sort of stuff, I think.
There's a difference again between celebrating, and being pumped up, and turning around and making it about the defender and not being about you.
I think they don't want guys to get in other guys' faces, essentially. Like, don't be in their grill going off on them. It was like, get stuck into them. But hey, it's a warrior sport at this point. So
yeah, exactly right. And
what I'm about is Von Miller and like his hip thrusts, his celebrations. That's what I'm worried about. I don't want Von missing any weeks.
There's some of the loosest hips in the NFL.
Yeah. So anyway, the only other news coming out of this Colts Panthers games was PJ Walker playing for the Panthers. Had actually a really good game. Probably one of the most notable being probably the. I don't think he got the MVP, but he was the best quarterback coming out of the XFL for that year that they played, and he has continued that form. They do have Sam Darnold there, who's the kind of banking on, but hey, maybe look out for PJ Walker as a late kind of inclusion as a guy that seems to be doing it all for him at the moment.
Yeah, how good. I hadn't even considered that Sam Darnold's job or that starting QB position there at Carolina was under threat. So that'll be another one to keep an eye on. Imagine that an XFL quarterback coming in and starting in the NFL.
Yeah, well, I don't think anyone's kind of done that trajectory since, say, Kurt Warner did it after playing arena football. Like, can't think of anyone else that's kind of followed that same sort of path. I know a few guys played Europe football when they had that league, kind of got some match time and then came across, but I don't think anyone's ever, ascended to starting quarterback after playing in a second-tier league for quite a while.
Yeah, for sure. That'll be one to keep an eye on there.
So
that'll probably wrap us up.
Monks, you have a comment? I was just going to
ask. Obviously, I guess on the other side of the ball with the Colts, obviously we went out. What do you think about the Colts and their passing attack? I guess seemed pretty promising with Eason.
Yeah, by all accounts, Jacob Eason wasn't bad. They did have Jonathan Taylor have a breakout year as a rookie last year. I expect him to be a major part of this offense. Obviously, losing Quentin Nelson is a massive out for them as well on the offensive line. Probably the best guard in the NFL at the moment. So whether or not that'll affect their ability to pound the rock. But if they can just get, I haven't seen enough of Eason to really wonder where he's at. But they're not in a very strong division. Their defense is good. I just expect Taylor to get a massive role at the start of this season until Wentz is healthy to come back, or maybe Wentz wasn't that great last year. Maybe Eason seizes the bull by the horns and really makes this job his.
Yeah, for a team that made the playoffs last year, I've got a lot of questions and be worried as a Colts fan. Hopefully they can turn it around. But let's see how they go in the next couple of preseason games. Week 2 does kick off tomorrow. You got Eagles taking on the Patriots tomorrow morning. Our time.
You'd say in the AFC South there, it's Tennessee and then daylight. You'd think given the injuries to Quentin Nelson and Carson Wentz.
That's NFL for the week. I think we're going to jump down into the AFL and tackle some of the AFL pre-finals. Bye round has been scrapped. That's probably the biggest news. Just keep going, keep it rolling. Had the bye round for the last 4 years. So trying to get a 25th September grand final. Do they have a location? Have they agreed this is going to be in Perth, or is it's looking likely it's not on the East Coast? Is what they're thinking.
Yeah, it looks like Perth and Adelaide are duking it out to host the AFL grand final this year. All indications seem to be pointing towards Perth. We saw a full crowd there for the Derby on Sunday night there between West Coast and Fremantle. Mark McGowan's been very strict with who can go in and out of the Western State there, and you have to think as well. Optus Stadium only a few years old. I think all indications probably point towards Perth hosting their first AFL grand final.
Yeah, which would be interesting because 2 years back to back, one in the Gabba. Now we're going to go over to Perth for a grand final. The Melbourne, unfortunately, I think they had 20 odd cases again today.
It's when do you make a decision as well? It's the AFL grand final in terms of getting all the infrastructure and everything set up. Around public transport and getting all the staff in that you will need to host a grand final. And I don't think it's a decision that you could be making much more than, say, 2 weeks out. So unless there's some kind of drastic change in the Victorian COVID cases in the next, say, fortnight, I think Perth's probably the front runner to be hosting their first AFL Grand Final.
Yeah. And on the flip side, looking at the NRL, I think they've said they're going to stay in Queensland for the remainder of the season. So,
I think it's a bit of a no-brainer in the league to cross codes. I think Suncorp will be hosting the NRL Grand Final pretty comfortably this year.
Yeah, but that'd be, I think, 3 months in total if you make it all the way through your team in Queensland.
Something like that.
Anyway, Pepe just walked away. I wanted to. I was going to ask him what's going on at Richmond. Who are they investigating? They're investigating Dion for going for a pub.
Yeah. So is this a COVID breach?
Yes.
Yeah. So he was photographed with with a bunch of little fireball shots. And
think about it, Drake, bro.
Yeah, fireball's right. You do have to be very careful on that, as you do with any spirit.
They're tasty, but they're not it's not helping your image, is what I'm saying.
If you're gonna get caught with something, get caught with something good.
Mate, if you've got 8 little shots of any spirit in front of you, none of that looks good for your image. Unless it's eight shots of COVID vaccine. That's the only thing that you get caught with it. They'd probably say, "Hey, why have you got that? That should be going into someone's arm." Look, I don't know what to make of this. I don't know if Richmond's too concerned about it. It doesn't seem that he was on this pub crawl. So I think they've sort of been these underground sort of pub crawls being organised, via the wonders of social media, where people just sort of cruise around different pubs that are doing takeaway, and trying to have a little bit of fun against the rules down there in Melbourne at the moment. I'm not sure if Preseason was involved in that, or if someone just snapped a picture with him, been down there, just picking up some takeout from his local, supporting the local. Not too much noise out of this. I don't think this will be a massive story as we move forward. Something big to come out of Richmond in the last 24 hours, however, is the retirement of Basher Hooley. 232 AFL games, 206 with the Tigers. I did forget, started his career as a bomber. 3 premierships, 2019 All-Australian, and the first devout Muslim to play in the AFL. There's been a few other guys, that have sort of come from Islamic families, but I think he's sort of been the first, to be observing Ramadan and still playing. So a real trailblazer in the Muslim community here in the AFL. So he'll be sorely missed, a staple of the Richmond Tigers, back 6 through 3 premierships, and a big retirement out of Windy Hill with Hooker calling it a day. That will be when the season finishes, whenever that is for the Bombers. It could be this weekend. It could be further down the track. He's 32 years of age, 219 games, never won a finals game with the Bombers. That famously have the longest active streak without winning a finals game in the AFL outside of the Gold Coast Suns, who has never won one. Will he be able to end his career on a high with possibly a finals win? We'll know in about 9 days.
Yep. Yeah, and it's that time of the year. There's a whole bunch of retirements across both codes in Australia because they're getting towards the end. As the stalwarts, the guys that have been there for a long time, start to hang it up. But yeah, we wish both of those guys all the best, and all the future guys retiring as well. That they have great lives after football.
Yeah, they're probably the big 3 out of this week. Yeah. In Cale Hooker, Basher Hooley, and going back to Eddie Betts, who we mentioned at the start of the show.
Definitely. So speaking of football, let's get stuck into the round 23 preview. Last round, for this season. There is some blockbuster matchups and some juicy matchups as well. And to kick us off is actually Western Bulldogs taking on Port Adelaide. Port Adelaide taking over Western Bulldogs on the ladder, with the Bulldogs late slide coming off back-to-back losses to the Bombers, the Dons, and the Hawks.
Yeah, I'm not really sure what's going on at the kennel. So look, that loss against Essendon, you kind of think they're going in the right direction. You know, maybe it was a one-off kind of thing, but they got beaten quite comprehensively this weekend, just past against Hawthorn. Really missed Josh Bruce. Really lacked a big, tall, key forward to go to there. They did have the return of Adam Treloar and Josh Dunkley in the last few weeks. I don't know if they're a little bit underdone, but just haven't been able to, be their normal, barnstorming selves. And if they lose this game and the Lions win, they could drop out of the top four, which would be massive, considering a lot of people have or had them a few weeks ago as being flagged favourites. And as well, if they do lose this game against Port, they go into the finals, regardless of whether they finish fourth or fifth. They'll 3 consecutive L's, so can't be too good for their confidence.
Yeah, you need to peak at the right time, and if their form's not right going into the finals, that's going to make it difficult. On the flip side, though, you've got Port Adelaide. They just came off destroying Carlton last week and have won 5 in a row.
I still got the hat. That was a hard game to watch, that one, but we'll get to that in a sec.
So much for chat about them. We might sneak into the 8 as Carlton. So.
Yeah, we were past that a few weeks ago with that loss to North Melbourne. And then the Gold Coast Suns.
Yeah. So Charlie Dixon had 4. Travis, the good bloke, got 31 and a goal. They did kick the last 19 goals of that game straight, so they absolutely dominated.
You said that quite nonchalantly. They kicked the last 19 goals of that game straight. Absolute flat track bullies. Nothing to do with Carlton's performance. I think just we can only focus on Port here. You know, just being a bully. Yeah, really putting away some of these struggling small Melbourne clubs.
Well, it's interesting you mentioned that, because Port like to beat teams below them on the ladder. And what's happened to Western Bulldogs? They're now below them on the ladder. So Port Adelaide will go into this going, hey, we can beat these guys. That was the one pure reason why I have picked Port this week, because I think, hey, they're now jumped another person on the ladder. They will go out and beat them. So
I think, and Mac, if you're listening, don't hate me. I think I've tipped Port Adelaide here too. I'm worried about the Dogs. Dropping these games at this time of the year, not the best signs. I've gone Port, but this really could go either way. I'd love to hear the odds and your tip, please, Max.
Yeah, so this is going to be interesting because I picked Port as well. They are underdogs at $2.12 at the moment. The Dogs are at $1.73. The line is very close at 4.5.
Yeah, I wouldn't be touching that line, and I probably wouldn't be betting on this with my money head to head. A great game to cop on a Friday night, and possibly a preview of a finals matchup. How good, we're there. It's a long season. We're into the last round, and now we really start to get a good indication of who's going to go deep here in September. Moving into Saturday, we've got 2 big Melbourne clubs, 2 recent powerhouses going at it. But also 2 clubs that won't be playing finals football this year. I'm talking, of course, about the Richmond Tigers and the Hawthorn Hawks. The big, storyline out of this one is it will be Alistair Clarkson's last game as Hawthorn coach. Monks, would you mind running us through some of his accolades there? Have you got them handy?
Ooh, give me a second.
No, you're all right. I've got them here. 389 games as head coach, 228 wins. That's a tick under 60%. And the big one, 4 flags, and went there. Hawthorn not in the best position, I think, in 2005 when Clarko got the job there, and regarded now as a modern coaching genius. He really drew some inspiration from other sports. He's a big soccer fan. Would watch how soccer strategy would work, and came up with some of the first zone defenses and clusters that we've seen in the AFL. So essentially a cluster. If you're say you're a kick ahead and there's a minute to go in the game, rather than lining up in a 6-6-6 fashion, which has been introduced essentially because of some of the innovations that Clarko had as a coach. They would flood their back line and bring 3 forwards back there and play 9 on 6 and essentially force the AFL this year to change a rule with some of his coaching expertise. So he'll be sorely missed at Hawthorn. The big sort of question around his future is does he come back to coaching? Does he have a year off? We've speculated about it before on the Esky. I think we'll leave it for tonight. And by all accounts, it'll be Sam Mitchell coaching the Hawks next year.
Yeah.
The Tigers, you go.
I was going to say the Hawks have finished well as well, playing, I think, for Clarkson to finish off his reign. They've played well the last month. They've won 3 on the trot. So
and not just any 3 games. They beat the Bulldogs last week. I think a few weeks before that they beat Brisbane.
Yep.
And what was the other one? I think Collingwood. So Collingwood not going the best, but still a big matchup there, and then knocking off two highly teams there. So yeah, probably going in the right direction, you'd think, for next year. In terms of the Tigers, they will be missing the top 8 for the first time in 5 years. The Giants put them to the sword last Friday night. Retirement that we didn't mention before, David Asprey, 3-time premiership player, 154 games for the key back there. We probably don't want to dwell more on this game outside of it being Clarko's last game. No real implications for the rest of the season. Who did I tip? That's a good question. I think Hawthorn are favourites in this, if I remember correctly, and I think I tipped Hawthorn.
I picked Hawthorn.
Yep, I picked Hawthorn as well. They are favourites $1.36 at the moment. Tigers are out at $3.18. The line is 18.5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, look, probably won't be punting on this game personally. Might try and catch a little bit of the start just to see if they do any sort of tribute or send off for Alistair Clarkson.
Yep.
Yeah, true.
What's the next game that we got there, lads?
We've got Sydney taking on the Gold Coast. That's on Saturday at Marvel Stadium. So Swans 6th overall at the moment. Suns are at 15th, so Suns can't play finals. Poor Suns assured of home elimination final that won't be at home because they can't play at Sydney, unfortunately.
It sucks, isn't it? There's no home field advantage this year, is there? There's no real difference unless you're, say, a Western Australian side, which probably won't be there. I suppose the only advantage really is going to go to Adelaide trying to get a home final because they might actually be able to host it. But yeah, Sydney should finish 6th here, and they won't really have any home field advantage, you'd think, in the finals. Gold Coast, they've been pretty disappointing this year. They got flogged by the Bombers last week, and there's probably a few question marks surrounding Stewie Dew, whether he'll be coach in 2022. It is kind of a dead rubber in the fact that I don't think Sydney can progress to 5th, and they won't drop lower than 6th. So they are assured of that elimination final at inverted commas home. Have we all gone the Swans here, boys?
Yep, Swans by a lot.
Yeah, I've gone Swans as well. Josh Kennedy is out injured at the moment. Buddy Franklin is back in the lineup.
Buddy. What does he need a kick to get 1,000 and have to get about 16 or something, wouldn't he?
Is it 986 at the moment?
14.
14.
He got 13 in the game, boys. 13. So And
if he gets 6 in this
Yeah.
one, maybe he'll start getting close.
yeah, then he'd be right on. Then he'd be right on. So
Yeah, it will be.
it's not out of the realm. You'd think it's gone for this season, but it's not impossible.
No, that's it. Swans heavy favourites leading to the matchup, $1.17 at the moment. Suns are out at 5.10, and we've got a line of 30.5.
Ooh, I ain't touching that, and probably ain't that interested really in that one. A somewhat more interesting matchup here is Saturday afternoon at the Gabba. The Brisbane Lions take on the West Coast Eagles. The Lions are in 5th. The Weagles are in 9th. The Lions made easy work of Collingwood last week. Charlie Cameron had 6 goals, his equal career best. Did you catch any of this, Sean? Highlights? Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I had this mostly in the background, but they spanked him. I think they have 150 points by the end of it, so they were all over him. Scored at will. Hopefully, they come into a side that's probably a little bit better. Though West Coast, of course, playing away from home is a different beast. So,
isn't it? And a bit of a shock loss last week in the Derby there. We mentioned last week on the pod that they had won 11 straight in the Derby. They've really fallen off a cliff. They can technically make the 8. They have to win this game, which is a tall order in itself, and then they rely on a GWS or an Essendon loss, and both those teams quite short in their matchups. So the 8 seems like it's all wrapped up, but there are the sort of little technicalities here. An interesting matchup here is the Battle of the Ruckman. Nick Naitanui going up against big Oscar McInerney. I was having a look at the stats, just willy-nilly, not even regarding this game. I was having a look at clearances in the AFL this year. Nick Naitanui, a ruckman, is 4th overall for clearances in the AFL. Unbelievable, considering the fact that he's got to tap the ball to another guy, and they're meant to get the clearance. His follow-up work in the ruck is second to none. He's got 148 clearances, which has him 4th overall. And the next ruckman in clearances is actually Oscar McInerney, who himself has got 109. So it'd be interesting to see them do battle this game here.
Well, shout out to Oscar last week as well. He took on Grundy, and they had a pretty good battle, and it was a pretty interesting game from that aspect too. So I think he did a really good job of going up against Grundy in that.
I would have Oscar in the better half of ruckman now, and possibly even a little bit higher than that. You've got your Grundy and your Gawn are probably the elite 2, probably followed by Nick, or you could probably even throw Nick Nat into that conversation. I think Sean Darcy's been really good this year, but then probably that next tier down, I think you can start talking about an Oscar McInerney.
Definitely agree. So who'd you pick in this one? I've gone Brisbane.
Yeah, I've gone Brisbane. I think West Coast have really struggled the back end of this season. I think they lose this, and I think they miss out on the 8.
Thanks.
Yep, I've gone Brisbane as well. West Coast, seem to be in all sorts. They are underdogs at $6.05. Brisbane are $1.13. Line
very
is
cool.
Line is 36.5.
Yeah, a bit of a fall from grace for the Eagles. Premiership winners back in 18 and made the finals in 19 and 20. I think they miss out here. A little bit of a changing of the guard in West Coast, probably missing out, and Richmond already confirmed being out.
Yeah,
true.
But
what have we got next?
Yeah, but then speaking of the top teams, we roll into Geelong taking on Melbourne. First versus second, both on equal amount of wins for this season. Minor premiership on the line with the top of the table clash, of course. Cats were 14-point winners over the Saints. No Danger. Oh, Danger did play. Sorry,
he ended up playing, and played well.
Yeah, and I wanted to point out, what did Toby Green get? He got a week and a fine.
Yeah, he got a week. Yeah.
And for the elbow to throw it. I just wanted to go, and we'll talk about Fafita in a minute when we get to the NRL, but that's the reason why elbows to throats are a no-no. So, there's really big risks involved in that kind of injury. So I think it's fair what Toby got. If not, the 2 weeks he probably should have been upheld. because the resulting potential damage is also very, very bad.
It can be catastrophic. It's not an area of the body that should be taken lightly. I suppose the thing that maybe Toby had in his favour is when you are carrying the ball, you probably get a little bit more protected than being a tackler. But yeah, it probably shows Danger's toughness to go out there and be probably one of Geelong's best three on the field. The other two blokes that did really well for the Cats, Cam Guthrie, we talk about him every week, he had 36, and Sam Menegola, 31, and a goal there for the Catters in their win against St Kilda, who, again, pushed. They've had a lot of games where they've gone pretty close, but just haven't been able to get the bickies. And then the Melbourne Demons, they made amends for their shock loss mid-season to the mighty Adelaide Crom. Bailey Fritsch, 7 goals, a career best outing for him. He kicked the last 5 for the Melbourne Demons. And we talk about it, boys. Multi. Multi. I had him in a little cross game multi for my punters club. The bloke had 25 touches in the last 9 games that he's played. Of course, when I put my money on him, he gets 23. Thank you, Christian. I imagine you are listening and care about the $10 you lost me there. Someone to make note of, Luke Jackson for the Melbourne Demons. He is having an absolute breakout season. He looks to have the NAB Rising Star all wrapped up. He's been a really good chop-out ruckman for Big Max Gawn. He had 19 hit-outs, 16 disposals, and 2 sausage rolls. He's only 19. He plays a lot bigger than his body. And ex-basketball apparently was like, you hear a lot about ex-basketballs, choosing Aussie rules football over basketball. Apparently he was legit, like pushing like boomers legit. And he's picked AFL. He's done the reverse Paddy Mills, if you will, where Paddy Mills himself was a budding young Australian rules footballer. He chose basketball. Jacko's gone for footy here, and it seems to be the right decision. Yeah, I think he'll get crowned the NAB Rising Star. And Jake Lever, boys. I watched a little piece on KO on him. They just did like a little 5-minute sort of analytical bit on him, and watching how he rolls off his man and sort of sits further behind the ball and just lets his forward run free. But because his vision is so good and his instincts are so good, he's able to pick off the ball and intercept mark whilst being sort of a roll-off defender. So that was an interesting little show into the tactics of the Melbourne Demons backline. This game, it could be the grand final. It's one versus 2. It's an absolute treat to be getting this, just a week out from the finals. Very, very hard to pick. Yeah. I've gone Geelong. I think Geelong, their experience for one, it sort of stands out for mine. Very hard to split these two, but I've gone Geelong with not a heap of confidence. What are we thinking?
Yeah, I had it as a coin flip. I originally picked Melbourne. I just changed it to Geelong, and purely Geelong at home. And I think Melbourne kind of struggle a little bit with the real top teams, and I think that kind of benefit Geelong at home. They're a different beast, and that for me flips that coin towards them more. That need a little bit more towards them, but should be an excellent game, and I don't think there'll be much in it.
No, and it really wouldn't surprise me if this is what we're talking about in 3 and a bit weeks' time as being the big one.
Yep, agree.
That's it, yeah. Yes, it's going to be another interesting one again. I've gone Geelong as well. They are favourites but not by much. They're $1.90. The D's are out at $1.94, so only 4 cents in it. The line's half a point.
Yeah, this is close.
So yeah, flip a coin.
Absolute treat to cop this on a Saturday night. I think Channel 7 might be showing that as well. Or it'll surely be on Mate, but I don't know.
They're going to be showing this game because they won't be showing the other game in the same time slot. That's
No, we can probably we are alluding to the mighty Carlton Blues taking on the GWS Giants. Carlton woeful, really, in the second half against Port. The first half was really good. I don't know if you boys caught even the highlights of this. They were matching Port Adelaide for 2 quarters in this game. Problem is, a game of AFL footy goes for 4 quarters, and the second and third they did nothing. They kicked 0 goals, 6 actually in the second half. Really disappointing for Mark Murphy in his 300th game. A few of the young blokes for Carlton looking all right in Matt Kennedy and Josh Honey, the 19-year-old. He's looking the goods. He had 2 goals. And I don't know if you boys saw it, but Jacob Wiedering, he did the biggest punch I've ever seen as a backman going up for a spoil. This punch went further than I can kick a ball. And but maybe more, because I can probably kick it.
Talking like 15 meters?
Yeah, I was going to say 12. So no, but this punch went about 40 meters, and it was watching it. This is just defying the laws of physics. Ridiculous stuff there from Big Waders. He's probably an All-Australian this year, and would have got a rest in peace, Spud Frawley's golden fist of the week. Levi Casbolt, the club announced he won't be renewed for next year. 154 games with the Blue Baggers. I have spoken about it on this podcast before. Think he's got a lucrative modelling career ahead of him if he was to choose that route. A very good looking route.
So what are we thinking on this one? If the GWS likely could potentially play Sydney next week, and a kind of Sydney final not in Sydney. Do we? I've gone GWS. I think they'll beat the Blues here. I think the Blues have factored in. The season's done.
I've gone Judas. I don't think the Blues have got that much to play for this week. They already played their finals in those losses to North and Gold Coast. It's really GWS's game to lose here. If they were to lose, they really do leave the door wide open for the teams at the West, them being the Fremantle Dockers and the West Coast Eagles. Both of them have their work cut out for them, but were the Blues to upset the Giants here, that does leave them the opportunity to try and swoop in on that 8th position.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree.
You're right.
Max?
I've gone GWS as well. They do have a bit of a hoodoo over Carlton. They've won 8 of the last 9 head-to-heads. Being favourites $1.29 at the moment, Carlton are out at $3.63, with the line sitting at 21.5.
Yeah. I think we'll breeze through the last 3 because unfortunately Essendon's probably the only one with finals implications on the line. St Kilda are taking on Fremantle. Fremantle, though, they really want to win this. Potentially, so if GWS stumbles, they could maybe sneak into the finals. Saints, they really pushed Geelong last week. They did go down by 14. Of course, their season done. They've really struggled with injuries throughout the year. I think they'll be better next year. They've got a lot of kind of good young talent coming through in for the Saints. So hopefully if they can get healthy, they've got Steely there, of course, who's could go very far on the Brownlow in the next couple of weeks. So they've got some talent there, but I think this game I've actually picked Saints because I like what they're hot and cold. I think they're going to be hot. Freo probably got more on the line. They really need to win this game to even give themselves a chance to make the 8. They technically make it, but they need other teams to really shit the bed. So it's a bit of it's a bit of a big game there. What are your boys' thoughts?
Yeah, I've gone Freo here. Not that confident, but I just think they've got a little bit more to play with in the fact that they've got a sniff for the top 8 here, and St Kilda doesn't. A massive momentum booster for them winning the Derby last week in Dave Mundy's club record game. Caleb Sarong is doing really well. Matt Taberner is coming along as a key forward. I've gone Freo just in the fact that they might have a little bit more to play for.
Thanks.
I've gone St Kilda. No real reason at all.
I like it.
That's it.
Seriously, in trying to pick the AFL this year, you may as well go like that because unlike the NRL, it's been very, very difficult to pick, and there's upset galore. So yeah, and sometimes you may as well just go, well, flip a coin. Who knows?
That's it. I suppose too that the only telling thing is St Kilda is the favourites at the moment at $1.67. Freo out at $2.21, and we do have a line of 6.5.
So in the next game, we've got Essendon taking on the Pies. Essendon currently in 8th spot and will need to win to cement that and to confirm that with those other guys chasing them.
Yeah.
So Jack Stringer did boot 5 last week against the Suns. The Pies are already thinking about Monday. They got pumped. There's been some talk about, is it Rossline? One of the lines. They reached out to a potential coach. And I think he turned them down. So, of course, they're still hunting for coaches.
Yeah, completely up in the air at this stage. That will be all the off-season talking points, you'd imagine, who will coach Collingwood next year. Not their year, was it? We covered it actually early in the On The Esky days of the whole Eddie Maguire fallout after the Do Better report. Nathan Buckley calling it a day. A series of injuries. Not their year, Collingwood's. So it'd be hard to imagine them getting up and beating Essendon, who have got everything to play for.
Yeah, I agree. So I've backed Essendon.
Yeah, Bombers here.
Yeah, I have backed the Bombers as well. Don't know how newsworthy it is, but a couple of weeks ago, former Australian netball coach Lisa Alexander was putting her name in to take the her job over at Collingwood. So don't know if those talks have gone any further, but yeah, that's just popped up in the news.
Would be a huge turn of events. You'd think the first female head coach of an AFL team. I'd be highly surprised if that was to come to fruition, but who knows? Who knows?
Yep, that's it. Could be the thing that Collingwood needs to keep in the news.
Yeah.
I have gone Essendon. They are favourites at $1.28. Collingwood are out at $3.70. Line is 22.5.
Yeah.
And I know they've got to beat Collingwood. Let's not take it for granted. However, going back to a few of the earlier games, if Port Adelaide were to beat the Western Bulldogs and Brisbane overtake them, we could see a Western Bulldogs Essendon matchup in week 1 of the finals, and Essendon only a few weeks removed from beating the Western Bulldogs. So, yeah, again, don't want to get ahead of ourselves. They have to beat Collingwood first for that to happen. But just looking into the crystal ball and what we could be talking about in a week's time, that's what I kind of start thinking about.
Yeah.
Well, that means Essendon gets through the week 2 of finals then.
Yeah. And to finish us off for the rounds,
17 years, so nothing was needed.
We'll finish off this round of AFL. We've got the biggest game of the week. We've got last playing second last. I'm taking off North Melbourne at Adelaide. It's North clinched their first spoon since 1972. They're 6 points behind the Crows with two wins behind, of course. David Mackey announced his retirement this week as well. 248 games for the Crom, makes his 9th most capped Crom player. What do you boys think about this?
Who cares? I've gone the Crom. Cop that 17th versus 18th, and it's not even for the spoon. It's just they may as well just call it off, and the boys could have started bloody Mad Monday this week. I've gone the Crows just on the home field advantage. Nothing to play for here. Hope there's no serious injuries out of this game.
Yeah, I picked Norths again. No reason. I think they've played a pretty good month of footy actually. Just no results to back it up. But yeah, I don't think anyone will be watching this.
Yeah, I've gone Crom as well.
What are the
Sportsbet.
odds? Are they both paying like $4? What's the draw paying?
The draw's $1.20.
Yeah. Nah. Well, Sportsbet has them pretty similar to the matchup first versus second Geelong versus Melbourne. So Adelaide are $1.89 and North are $1.95. We've got a line of 0.5 point again. Total game points 157.
Yeah, I don't like any of this.
Don't bet on it. Don't watch it.
Nah. And will that wrap us up for AFL this week?
Yes, that will. And that means we got to move into the Bumhole League and talk about the NRL.
What's been grinding your gears this week about the Bumhole League, aka the National Rugby League, Sean?
I don't know. Maybe the some of the suspensions and the inconsistencies and shoulder charges, and if you're Nathan Cleary, you get off. You don't get done for shoulder charges.
Yeah.
Not
too much in that one. I didn't think, but there was no attempt to use his arms.
Yeah, but then your mate, the Dragons winger that got shoulder charge, and I think he got 3 or 4 weeks as well, for almost the identical thing.
I think impact comes into play there in the fact that when Ravalawa was getting suspended, he was flying in and really putting a shot on blokes, whereas Nathan Cleary made no attempt to wrap up in his one. I think they do take into account impact there.
Yeah, well, I think the other side, good thing for Nathan was he had a bum shoulder and he wasn't trying to tackle with his bum shoulder. So he was like, I'm doing my best out here with my one good one.
Yeah. But having said that, the Victor Radley one I thought was really quite soft. 3 weeks for his charge down attempt gone wrong. There was loading involved in that because he had already been suspended for 5 weeks earlier in the year. So it was a 2-weeker that got upgraded to a 3-weeker. I'd be happy if he just got fined for that. To be honest, did put was it Albert Kelly? He did put him in a bit of a awkward position, but not much in that. And
what do you boys think about the ruling on that? Because we've talked about NFL to start off. Attacking the legs of a kicker is a big no-no. In the NRL, really isn't any kind of rule to cover it. There is. It kind of comes more into a fair play kind of thing. It's like, hey, diving a bloke's legs is not really on, especially when the guy gets rolled up on it and it looks bad. I think this ended up looking more bad than an actual letter in the law of the rule book to say that's against it and you're going to get penalised. So I wonder if the NRL should probably take maybe a bit more stance on the attacking the legs of a kicker, especially in flight or he's full like it's not stride, but like full swing through his kick, or extension, whatever you want to call it, that you don't actually tack the legs or like his plant leg or even his leg that's up in the air. Whether they kind of protect the kicker a little bit more than guys running and going low on him.
The thing is, for mine, the NRL is really quite lenient with a kicker after you've kicked the ball. You can if you wrap them up, you can bury them, and you see it every week. Every week, the 6 or the 7 puts up a bomb. The ball is well gone, and some big bopper forward comes through and cleans up. Often the smallest bloke on the field. Of course, you want to protect the leg. Victor's going for a charge down in this one. He misses the ball and ends up going through Albert Kelly's legs. You want to protect the kicker, but if the legs are so important, then you might be thinking about changing the rules with the contact on them as is. For mine, I thought this was a little bit rough on Victor's behalf, and if they are really concerned with the player welfare, maybe they start thinking about the rules about hitting a half after he kicked the ball.
Yep, I agree. I think even if it's accidental and Bradley's part, like say Abel Kelly blows his ACL out because he just rolls through it, like, you know, I don't think it's a good look having guys go low on, especially kickers, when they can't protect themselves. Because some of them, you know, they get elevation. They leave the ground to put in their kick. You can't tackle a bloke in the air, but you can take out a kicker's legs when he's kicked it through. So, and I think it's kind of fair. Like people complain about, oh well, if he does a grubber kick and then you hit him, and you've taken him out and you get penalised. It's like, I think it's pretty clear to say if a bloke's he's kicked a bomb or he's kicked a long kick, there's a clear difference you can see in the kicking style from something a bit shorter and in that regards. I think, like you said, you probably should protect those blokes, especially the big boppers that come through. Nathan Cleary gets it the most. And, you know, you want to take him out of the game, you got to put him on his ass. So they go through and they light him up every time.
And they would be instructed to do it like that. It would be a deliberate game from the opposition coach to say, oh, well, if you've got a generational talent in a Nathan Cleary putting up a bomb, you'll be sending your biggest forward every time to go lay the bloke out. And often there are ones where you go, okay, the bloke couldn't have pulled out. He was committed. But a lot of what you see in the NRL is there is this grey area where after a bloke's put a kick on, you're allowed to belt the guy.
Yeah. Very interesting to see what they come with that. Whether that
for sure.
Progresses anywhere in the season. So
well, for me, tending to agree with you, Sean, in it being a bit of a clusterfuck, a bit of a shit show, in that Victor Radley gets 3 weeks for that. And then Corey Haraway and Naira
kills a man.
Also, legitimately, someone check Jerome Hughes's pulse, because that looked like a murder on a football field, and he gets 3 weeks as well. Granted, there was the loading that came in with Victor Radley, but not too much consistency for mine between those two instances.
3 months ago, that's probably like a 10-match suspension. Like it's
and that's right. Within a season, the chopping and changing of the rules. We spoke earlier about in the season about the hip drop tackle from Josh Maguire. You know, essentially something that can put an opposition player in a really vulnerable position, but also kind of following a traditional tackling technique. The fact that I think he got 5 weeks for that, and this one from CHN got 3 weeks. There just doesn't seem to be any consistency, does there?
Not at all. Changes week to week. And then Ryan Madison as well also got 3 weeks for his shot on Brad Parker to round some of the suspensions in the week. And I think there was a bunch of other like little ones as well, but we don't need to go into all the tic-tacky suspensions that come through the league. Before we get into some retirees and player movement, if I told you the Titans were leading 16-12 at halftime, what would you think the current score is against the Storm?
I've got the score up in front of me right now, so I can't comment.
Quite unusual, because normally would be watching the game. Hadn't even realised that the time had got to play. I imagine Melbourne's up quite convincingly.
Yeah, it's Titans only just scored, but it's 34-20 with 4 minutes to go up for the Storm. Adakar got a double, and Munster and Hines also scored in the second half for their 4 tries in the second.
Well, we may as well talk about it quickly now. That means that they've equalled the record for most consecutive wins in 19. That goes to equal the Eastern Suburbs Roosters 1975 record. And next week they'll be going for 20 in a row. That will be the outright record.
And I'm just having a quick look. They got Eels next week.
Oh, put it in now.
Write it in now. They're not going to beat Dave Grohl's not going to go out there and beat the Storm. Let's put it that way.
No, you wouldn't think so. So massive second half there from the Melbourne Storm.
I'm assuming hand on heart, all 3 of us picked Storm.
Yep. Hand on heart here. I had made a note that the last time that they met, it was actually quite a close game. The Storm 20-14 victors in that one. But yeah, I'd tip Melbourne, and I think most of Australia probably would have tipped Melbourne.
Big time.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
currently still 13 plus as well. So always bet on the 13 plus.
That's right.
True.
Jimmy Maloney, the 35-year-old, he announced his retirement at the end of the Catalans Dragons season in the Super League this year. 278 first-grade games between Australia and England, and 14 origins for the Blues, 3 tests, dual premiership winner with the Roosters and with the Sharks. Apparently one of the biggest pests you'll ever meet. Getting around. I messaged you boys this week. I was like, it seems like Jimmy Maloney was like Will Chambers, but actually good.
Yes. Yeah. Chambers won some premierships, but he's passed. I'll just say Chambers probably passed it at this point. But yeah, James Maloney, definitely one of the all-time greats playing the 6th position, especially playing for the Roosters. The other retirement during the week, I think today officially, was Alex Glenn, also retired from the Brisbane Broncos. I think he's co-captain. I couldn't remember if he's outright captain, but I think he's co-captain for them at the moment. Played 13 or 14 years with the Broncos. Played mostly second row, and he's got a hand hanging up at the end of this season as well. Unfortunately, of course, playing for Brisbane and looking at, don't think they'll get the spoon this year, but they got a spoon last year, and they're going close. They're second last.
They can't. They actually, Canterbury wrapped up the spoon last week, I think, but they probably will finish 15th. So yeah, not the greatest note for Alex Glenn to finish his stellar career on.
And then in some player movements, Connor Watson is returning to the Chooks, going back to the Roosters from the Knights. He is their utility. There had been some chat in recent weeks. The Knights should really lock him up because he's an excellent 14 and probably should get more game time. But he's taken less money. He turned down $350K for 3 years for a 2-year $300K deal. Go back to the Roosters. Let's say probably rebuild or try to build his image, not rebuild, build on his image more, maybe get some more game time with the amount of injuries and retirements they've had, and get a play for them.
Yeah, a big loss for Newcastle. I think he's been up there with one of their best improved this year. One of Kalen Ponga's best mates too. So breaking up a bit of a duo there. You'd imagine with the retirements and the injuries that the Chooks have had, as you mentioned there, Sean, that he slots straight into a 14 or some kind of utility role at the Chooks next year. The other sort of big player movement news was Moses Mbai has been recruited by the mighty St George Illawarra Dragons. The Tigers will be paying some of his deal here, and it kind of really, if we didn't know already, kind of reaffirmed the thinking in that Anthony Griffin and the Dragons management, they like to grab these guys that sort of becoming out of favour with their clubs. We've seen it with Jack Bird, we've seen it with Josh Maguire, we've seen it with Andrew McCulloch, just to name a few, and try and get the lendor to pay off a bit of their contract as you go and try and turn them around. And to be honest, it's worked out pretty well so far. I think Bird's playing some good football. McCulloch is unfortunately got injured last week, but had been showing some of his previous form. So we'll see whether or not they're able to do that with Moses Mbai. And for next year, the Dragons, they've got Jaden Sewer, Francis Molo, George Burgess already put pen to paper. So they've got some reinforcements coming into their pack there. And the big news is that they're sniffing around for Viliama Kikau. So if they could land him,
that's a big get for them.
Yeah, bloody oath. That's a pretty good forward pack right there. So, anyways, the only thing that's confirmed from that is that Moses Mbai will be a Dragon next year.
So, Peps, what was your initial thoughts on the Moses Mbai signing?
Look, I think if they're paying a fair bit of his contract, I'm okay with it. He really has been lackluster. Let's be honest. As a West Tigers player, I was kind of like meh. Like,
that's what I was fishing for. So,
yeah. So, and look, a Queensland Origin representative. Was really quite electric back in his Canterbury Bulldogs days. Just hasn't quite shown it. Look, maybe that has to do with being a West Tiger. Maybe Hook's seen something here and has been able to grab a guy that he still sees some potential in. But yeah,
Run your pastures.
Yeah. As a Dragons fan, I kind of thought, nothing to write home about here. But wishing him all the best. As soon as someone pulls on the big red V, I'll get the fuck around him. So we'll see how he goes.
Yeah. That's kind of our news at the moment. Let's get stuck into round 23 and previewing the rest of the round. We talked about Gold Coast taking on Melbourne. The one interesting news, and it kind of rolls into our news in the Canberra Manly game, was the amount of jaw injuries or related facial injuries from last week. AJ Brimson needed jaw surgery and his season is done. So then in the Canberra, who are currently ninth, taking on Manly in the 5th place, they lose Tom Sterling as well for the rest of the year, needing jaw surgery as well.
Yeah. I think there's kind of some kind of situation where if they were to make the prelim, he might be okay to go, kind of thing. But you'd imagine Tom Starling is done for the year. The big news for the Raiders. For the Raiders.
Go Raiders. Yep.
Yeah, the big news for the Raiders tomorrow night is that Chance Nickel-Klokstad has been named as the 14. He hasn't played since round 5. He had a disc repair in his neck, which is never a good surgery. So wishing him all the best. I suppose the big news is that they're going to rock the Ken Berens jersey. I don't know if you boys have caught too much of this. This is very niche Canberra kind of chat here. We've been locked down for a week. Did it come from the subtitles of Andrew Barr press conference? Is that how this has come about?
Probably.
I've got no clue where it's come from.
Those automatic subtitles, they're probably just as good as our automatic subtitles on YouTube.
Yeah, it probably makes more sense, actually.
Also just dribble.
And this is dribble, to be honest, but I think it's going to make its way onto Canberra Raiders jersey tomorrow night. Essentially, we went into lockdown. Our brave Chief Minister, Andrew Barr, was giving the COVID cases or whatever, and the subtitles however it automated.
Yeah.
The robot had it come up as Ken Berens. So that's sort of become an internet meme. There's been a few people being a little bit too over enthusiastic about that, let's be honest. And apparently it will be on the Raiders jersey tomorrow night. So they will be the Ken Berens Raiders.
Too funny.
Yeah.
On the flip side, Manly, and what I was going to mention before, the third one that sustained a facial injury was Tommy Turbo. Fractured his cheekbone. Has happened to him before. He actually wanted to play in this game and thought he was good enough to go, but I think Manly were kind of like, well, we're in 5th. Beating Canberra probably doesn't really gain us overly too much. Let's rest you for a week and get you right. We don't want to make that worse and have a worse injury going into the final series upcoming.
I think he was set to play.
Yeah.
Sorry, I think he was set to play, but then it was a late scratching to just today. So
he was named originally.
Yeah. This might be a little bit of Des Hasler mind games kind of thing. Thing is, they can jump into the top 4. They would need the Roosters to lose one of their remaining 2 games, and if they win both, they can jump them. So if Tommy was available, I imagine they'd want him to play. There was also a bit of chat around because he's got a plate already in there, and apparently the contact on his cheek might have actually been saved a little bit by the plate already being in there. But yeah, it's been confirmed today. No Tommy Turbo. Tell you who had a game last week. Ruben Garrick, 28 points himself, 3 tries, 8 goals. He's actually got the Manly record now for most points in a season, 268 on the season. Shout out to Ruben Garrick. No Brad Parker for Manly tomorrow. He was on the receiving end of a shoulder charge from Ryan Madison. anyone been brave enough to tip the milk here? The Canberrans?
I have.
Oh, wow.
Purely on the fact, no Turbo Manly aren't that good. So,
and famously beat the Manly Warringah Sea Eagles a few weeks ago. Up there I think this was actually just when it got moved to Queensland. But yeah, they've shown that they can do it. So, and playing for a position in the 8 here, massive game for both sides. I've gone Manly. I think even without Tommy Turbo, I think they should get it done. But a big game for the Milk.
You're forgetting I picked 2 perfect rounds. So
you are, yeah. More indicative of the state the league's in at the moment.
Pretty much. Pretty
much.
Alex, who did you pick in some odds?
Well, I was going to make a joke, but the fact that you picked the Raiders, Chan's back, and your favourite player, Jared Croker's out, Tommy Turbo's out.
Ooh.
I was going to make a joke that the Raiders were going to back it in, but I can't. I got to go Manly.
Oh, do it, mate.
Sorry to pull you along like that. It will be interesting to see how Manly does go without Tommy Turbo. I mean, it's been telling all year when he doesn't play, they're a schmozzle. They're still favourites at the moment, $1.37. Raiders are out at $3.10. Got a line of 8.5. Yeah.
It's good you also brought up Croker as well, because there's been some chat during the week. They're a little bit worried about how he's going to go next season, whether he has a spot in the 17. Dealing currently with some shoulder issues, but he's got a dodgy knee. He's only 30, so he's got plenty of time potentially left to play, but they've got a lot of young guys coming through, and his body's a bit cooked at the moment. So his defense has been pretty poor this year, and we've talked about how he's gone. And his body's cooked. Like, his performance has dropped off because his body's done. Whether he needs a really good off season and to come back good, they're going to be nice and try to work their way through his situation, his injuries, and he's their captain, of course. So they're definitely trying to be nice. Ricky loves him, of course, but yeah, unfortunately for Jared, with the young fellas coming through and his body failing him, it's going to be hard to see if they fit him into the 17 next year.
For sure.
Let's
move into the blockbuster game Friday night. The Penrith Panthers, they're running second. They take on the South Sydney Rabbitohs, running third. Possibly a finals matchup here. Penrith were pretty good against the Dragons, maybe not spectacular. For me, poor Dragons fan here, we thought, surely Nathan Cleary doesn't come back to play against the lowly Dragons. Sake! He comes back. He was pretty good. He made 22 tackles, had a try assist, 450 kick meters. We did mention before the borderline shoulder charge that he was involved with. He gets away scot-free there. And South were really good against the Gold Coast Titans. Don't count them out. I talk about it every week. They've won 10 in a row now. Their last loss, coincidentally, was to the Panthers back in, I think, was it a Dubbo? I think it was a Dubbo game. It was a country rugby league game. They got belted 56-12 in that one. Only Dane Gagai, the notable out for the Bunnies here. What are we thinking? A hard one to pick here, boys. I went Penrith, but I'm not convinced.
I think Cleary back in Penrith. That's the difference there. I think there's some chat that Walker might actually be the favourite for the Dally M. Consistency. So all the other blokes that have done awesome have also, like, take Turbo. He's played half a season. Take Cleary, he's missed the last 2 months. Like, all the other guys kind of competing for it. Whereas Cody's just gone about his work and played the entire year. So he could maybe sneak in there as a potential Dally M dark horse.
Well, we're talking about it last week or the week before. In terms of try assists, he's like pushing 30, and then he's like 12 ahead of the next bloke. He's in career best form. You'd think if Tommy Turbo was definitely playing these last 2 games, maybe he would still be favourite. He's definitely not playing tomorrow night, and possibly doesn't play the week after. So maybe that's swung back into Cody's favour there.
Yep. Yeah, but I think the Panthers team overall, I think, is a better squad than Souths, and with Nathan Cleary back in there steering that ship around, I think they're going to be too good for Souths in this one.
Yeah, still no Brian To'o. He should be available for finals, and I think James Fisher-Harris is named as a 21 here, so it'd be interesting to see if he plays. I've gone Penrith. I'm expecting this to be a good game.
Did Pangai play last week?
Yeah, I think he come off the bench.
Off the bench, okay, yeah.
So Pango's named 19.
So they've got some guys coming back in that squad. So.
Yeah, Coruscant's back as well.
Yeah.
Max, who'd you pick?
Yeah, I've gone Panthers. They are favourites, $1.71. Rabbitohs are out at $2.15 at the moment. Got a line of 2.5.
Yeah, hard one to split
Close
there.
matchup. Yeah.
What's total match points?
Ooh, good question.
Yes, obviously love to score a few, and Penrith pretty good defensively.
So we have got 48.5.
Not bad.
Oh, it seems high. It seems high. I think. Yeah.
Both teams could score 30 in this game, though.
Yeah. You're not wrong. You're not wrong.
Yeah. I was thinking anything under 50 might be a bit juicy, and 48. It's potential.
Well, I think we were looking at this last week against the Titans, and I think they went unders.
Yeah, Titans didn't even score any points, which was the problem.
Yeah, I think it's 36-6. Yeah, so it wasn't really South's fault.
No, not at all. They held up their side of the bargain, but anyway. Next game we've got. Oh, go, Peps.
I was going to say probably just breeze through this West Tigers Cronulla game. I think Cronulla need to win this because they can still keep their top 8 chances alive. The Tigers are done. The Sharks, they went down to Newcastle. It was a weird second half. There was a lot of penalty goals involved. Yeah, it was a bit rugby-esque, if you will. The big story, I suppose, and we alluded to it earlier, was the Andrew Fafita injury. Fractured larynx. You don't want to see that kind of thing happen on the footy field. He's okay. He's had surgery. He
had to be put in an induced coma as well. So
yeah, and I think anything involving your larynx or any kind of incision to your throat, you probably are going to be chucked into an induced coma there. Look, not an injury that you want to have on a footy field, but possibly a touch over blown out. The fact that he was in an induced coma. For that. So just wishing him all the best. He's probably played his last NRL game too. Was the pivotal player in their 2016 grand final win against Melbourne. Famously had that run close to the line where he barged over to get the go-ahead try. So will go down in Cronulla Sharks folklore. In terms of this game, not heaps of interest. I wouldn't imagine. I've gone the Sharks. They can still make the 8. So I've gone them.
Yeah, same. I pick Sharks. Tiger Sting. Thanks.
Yeah, I've picked Sharks as well. They are favourites at $1.55. Tigers are out at $2.45 at the moment. If anyone's interested in a line, that's 4.5.
Yeah, interesting. Cronulla a lot to play for here, so yeah, we'll come down to that. Another game here with probably less interest. Canterbury Bulldogs take on the Newcastle Knights. The Dogs going down to the Warriors last week. They've officially got the wooden spoon. The Knights beating the Sharks, as we just mentioned. Daniel Saifiti, that's a big loss. The Origin prop. For a Newcastle, he sustained a pretty moderate to severe MCL injury. He's probably done for the year. I imagine we've all gone Newcastle here, backing them in. I think they'll go clinching a top 8 position with a win here.
And Tyson Frizzell's out.
So, and Frizzell, yeah.
Yeah. I guess you can't go past Newcastle when they're against the Dogs. The favourite result. What was that?
A lot more to play for being in 7th spot. So got to try to keep that spot.
That's it. Yeah, so their favourites $1.15. Dogs are out at $5.50.
Then we got the Eels taking on North Queensland Cowboys. Both teams are, of course, on massive losing streaks. I think Parramatta more because they've been playing teams better than themselves. The pretenders here, and North Queensland, they just stink.
9 in a row for the Cows.
Yeah, 9 in a row for us. The big news out of this was Reid Marnie. He's going to have to go under the knife for shoulder reconstruction, which is big news and a big loss. I think that's a big injury to come back from.
Yeah, it is. It is, and it's. I suppose the timing's okay. It looked pretty nasty, that injury the week before last for Reid. So hopefully, recovers well in the off season and comes back, ready to go. He was one of the breakout players of 2021. I thought was in that Queensland squad earlier in the year. Wishing him all the best recovering from that one. In terms of this game, I've gone Parramatta. You'd expect them to win.
I think I put 50 on them.
You reckon? Yeah, you reckon the Cows are that bad? I'm not that confident, but I think Para should win this pretty comfortably.
Max?
Yep. I've gone Para as well. Again, their favourites $1.31. Cowboys are out at $3.50 at the moment. The line is not close to 50. It's 11.5.
You taking that, Shauna?
I think so. With the way the Eels, they like to beat up the lower clubs, and Cowboys, you don't get much lower. Next match.
Moving into Sunday, the Dragons play the Roosters. The Dragons weren't embarrassed by Penrith last week. I did mention Andrew McCulloch before. He's done for the year. Ankle surgery for him. And the Chooks, actually probably the best game of last week for the neutral viewer. 1 point winner over the Broncos. I imagine we've gone the Chooks here, boys. The Dragons have been pretty woeful since the party at Vorney's.
Big time, yeah.
Yeah, I've gone. Yeah, Chooks as well.
Chooks here. Call me Judas.
So there's two here. They are favourites. They're $28. St George are out at $3.75 at the moment. We've got a line of 11.5.
Again.
Yeah.
Hey, the plus 13. That's where it's at, baby. And the 11.5. They're the ones you take all day.
Yeah.
Let's wrap this one up. The Broncos take on the Warriors. Brisbane. The young Broncos, Xavier Willison, did his ACL. He's only had a handful of games, poor bloke. Wishing him all the best for his recovery. And Tyson Gamble will be unavailable through suspension for the last 2 weeks of the year. The Warriors have won 3 in a row. It's pretty rare that you get to say those words, and they'll be gunning for 4 in a row here. And I've tipped them. I think they do it here. I think Brisbane, if it wasn't for the Canterbury Bulldogs, we'd really be talking a lot more about them, and we have we've done it to death, really. Very close to back-to-back spoons for the club, for the NRL's richest club.
Back in here too, perhaps I've picked the Warriors. I think they've been playing some good footy of late. Brisbane, I think, been playing some good footy of late too.
Yeah.
Not getting the results they need, but I think the Warriors are probably just a little bit ahead of them at the moment. Watch Reece Rolfs go out and beat up the Broncos just to prove a point.
Yeah.
Who'd you pick him to?
I've actually gone the other ways. I've gone Broncos. Yeah, well, got to keep it interesting. Warriors are favourites $1.85 at the moment. Broncos are out at $1.95, so still pretty close. We've got a line of 1.5.
Yeah.
That'll wrap up our week in the NRL. A brief mention of the rugby here on the Esky.
It's about as brief as its advertisement budget. So.
What was that?
I said it was about as brief as its advertisement budget. We'll talk about the rugby union.
They should be paying us big bucks. We're talking about rugby union.
That's it.
The only reason we're talking about it is the Wallabies got destroyed by the All Blacks, 57-22. The most ever points conceded by the Wallabies. They had 2 innocent tries for the All Blacks. This is played in Perth a fortnight ago. All Blacks win their 20th consecutive Bledisloe Cup.
So this was for the Bledisloe Cup.
Yeah. I think we
Yeah,
got
okay.
that wrong last
I
week.
got that wrong. Yeah, that was me.
That's all right. It doesn't matter. No one cares.
I'm
We
going
stink.
for me. You guys are going to have to carry it for a bit.
Yeah. It's
That's
all
all
good.
right.
We stink at rugby. Right, is it officially dead, Monks? I think it's pretty fucking close.
I'd like to hope not. I think.
There is a World Cup coming up.
No, it's actually on at the moment.
Fuck.
So that win for the All Blacks against the Wallabies was in the first round of the the Rugby Championship.
It's rugby championships, not the actual World Cup.
Not the World Cup. No, World
Yeah.
Cup I think is next year. I'm not sure. Could have
I know
that wrong as well.
I know it's 2023, I think, from memory. I'm just checking. Yeah, 2023. The Rugby League World Cup's next year.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
So
this year.
yeah, so we did have games all the way back from Sunday. So the Springbok beat out Argentina 32-12. We obviously had that win from the All Blacks against the Wallabies. After that, Springbok then beat out the British and Irish Lions 19-16. And then yes, sorry.
That's where we're up to date then.
Yeah, no, I've gone back in time. So I've actually only had the 2 games between New Zealand and Australia and South Africa and Argentina.
There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. That's enough rugby.
Yeah. No, they need a better TV deal.
Definitely. They need a better stream service if they want to stream their games.
Yeah, they can't compete with the big players at the moment. I think, like I understand that they've brought, Win brought them across as their marquee for their online streaming service, but yeah, they don't have the market for it just yet.
Let's take our sport off the biggest streaming service in this country in KO, and then no one watches it. Oh my God, what a bad decision.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, let's go into the On The Esky final round and get close to wrapping this bitch up. Let's kick off UFC. There's a UFC fight night on the weekend. Jared Cannonier is taking on Kevin Gastelum. So third ranked Cannonier taking on the 9th ranked Kelvin. Kelvin, of course, on a bit of a slide, losing 4 of the last 5, including a pretty good fight against Whittaker that went the distance. Cannonier, of course, also coming off on his own loss to Whittaker in October. What do you boys think of this? I think, as the notes say here, Cannonier is the bigger bloke. He's always going to have more size than Kelvin, who's the guy that came up from welterweight and kind of hovers in the middle of the 2 divisions. What are you guys' thoughts on this? I think Jared gets the win in this. I think he's kind of improved from where he's at. He's definitely in the upper echelons of the middleweight division. Probably 1 or 2 good fights away from fighting for a title.
Yeah, pretty wild that these 2 guys are meeting up in the fact that the killer gorilla Jared Cannonier has fought at light heavyweight. I think actually even going back, I think he's fought at heavyweight, which is pretty nuts at 5'11", and Kelvin on a losing slide, as we mentioned. Yeah, I think Cannonier gets a job done here. I suppose the only advantage that Kelvin has on his side is Cannonier's age. I think he's 37, so no spring chicken. Monks, do you have the odds here for this one? I imagine Cannonier is a pretty strong favourite.
Yep, yeah, he's favourite by $1.65 to Gastelum's $2.18, and
expected.
Yeah. And method of victory, we've got Cannonier at a KO, TKO at $2.88. First round knockout at $7 if you go to the round as well. Yeah.
I think we've got a question here of who the winner gets.
I
think Jared and Costa was booked, and then Costa pulled out of that, potentially COVID related. So yeah, potentially the winner of this could get Costa. I think Gastelum maybe not so much where his ranking is. He probably needs someone
on a slide.
Yeah, he needs someone probably in that 5 to 7 range if he does get the win on this. Vettori did just come off the loss to Izzy, so potentially that's in there. I think Vittori's like 4, and he maybe that he's at 5.
Yeah,
him and Kelvin. If Kelvin wins, makes sense. But I think I think the title fight's Whittaker and Izzy at this point. I have to see when and where that actually happens.
Mhm.
And the last bit of news there, Pepe, about good old Khabib potentially some soccer.
I think it's fake news. I think it's fake news, but it was widely reported earlier in the week that Khabib Nurmagomedov, arguably the GOAT of the UFC, had signed with Russian third division football team FC Legion Dynamo out of Mukhachkala. I think that's the capital of Dagestan.
Yep.
And it was being reported as being real. Joe Rogan was talking about it this week, and then the last sort of 24 hours, it kind of seems like it's fake news. Have you boys heard any more on this?
Yeah, I think let's not call it fake news. Let's call it media stunt.
Right.
Yeah.
This essentially is this because everyone's talking about it. You got Rogan talking about it, the $100 million man.
Yep.
So yeah, for me, I think this is more of a media stunt for that third division team. And Khabib, he loves his soccer.
Yeah.
He's an absolute avid soccer fan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You've seen him or on social medias running around with the football as well. So
I think they put two and two together and thought this would be a great.
Yeah. So, anyways, little tidbit. If it was to happen, I thought it was massive, but it seems like it's more just a bit of a clickbait.
Yes.
yeah.
In some real soccer news, however, the EPL kicked off over the weekend, and we've got treated to some really interesting results. The first game, the Brentford Bees, they came up. They haven't been in the Premier League for 74 years, and they went and knocked off a small London club. You might have heard of them. They've really struggled recently. Arsenal, have you heard of them?
Yeah.
Who's that?
Yeah, Arsenal.
Hey, Stig.
I think they used to be good. Anyways, so Brentford knocked them off 2-0. Arsenal had all the ball, but Brentford got the bickies. And absolute scenes in West London. They were showing, granddads that had been Bees fans their whole life, tears running down their face. Could you imagine 74 years? You're waiting to get into the top flight, and then
you win the first game.
you go out and you beat London minnows, Arsenal. So really good job there for Brentford. I'm sure that they won a lot of fans out of that. United look really strong against Leeds. They put 5 on them. They announced massive signing of Rafael Varane. A lot of games for Real, 79 games for France. He's won 4 Champions Leagues, 3 La Ligas. He's a World Cup champion. That will really boost them there at the centre-back position. Paul Pogba looked really good. Bruno Fernandes had a hat-trick. And nice to see a full house at the Theatre of Dreams there. Moving back down to London, Chelsea looked really good. Marcus Alonso drilled a nice free kick. And I think maybe the story out of week 1 was Chelsea defender Trevor Chalobah. He scored on debut. It was a really nice long-range strike for him. He's been in the Chelsea program since the age of 8, but had never managed to make the starting side. He'd been on loan for the last 3 years at 3 different clubs: Ipswich, Huddersfield, and out at Ligue 1 with Florient. And he managed to score a real worldly goal there. Liverpool put 3 on Norwich. Mo Salah has scored in 5 straight opening days. And probably the biggest story, in terms of results, was Tottenham knocking off the most expensive EPL squad ever assembled in Manchester City, Son, with the winner there. So good scenes to see the EPL back up and running.
Yeah, and I think everyone still thought Man City would walk in for this one, but got a bit of a slow start to start this season so far.
It's a long season.
Long season though. Yes, yeah, they might win the next 20 straight, but
they definitely could do. They definitely could do. A nice story out of the baseball. We're not avid baseball fans here by any means, but you boys saw some highlights from the Field of Dreams game.
Yep.
Yeah, saw pictures of it. It looked pretty cool.
Yeah. Essentially rebuilding this. Well, it's not a set. It's a proper baseball stadium, but it's
But it was next to the set. It was next to the set that they actually shot the movie, Field of Dreams, starring Kevin Costner. Yeah, one of the few instances in sport where they recreated a movie scene. Essentially, often movies will recreate a sporting scene. So it's so interesting to see it work in reverse there. If you're wondering about the game, the Chicago White Sox actually won a thriller against the New York Yankees 9-8. They had Kevin Costner lead the boys out of the corn to sort of, reincarnate the film, if you will. And the other bit of baseball news for the casual fan, the most expensive baseball card, I think sporting card ever, got sold this week. $6.6 million for a card.
$6.6 million.
Couldn't tell you who it is, or
That's absolutely crazy.
Have to look it up yourself. Yeah, $6.6 million for a baseball card.
Yeah, so I think it's for a player called Honus Wagner.
Yeah. Do you know when he played?
Yeah, years.
I have to look him up now, right?
It was. Hang on. Forgive me if I've done this one before, but it was him, and Buzz Rothfield was his coach.
And they were playing the lizard team and the dinosaurs.
You might not be wrong here.
That's all right. Buzz was saying, watch out. There's a meteorite coming. It's going to take us all.
So his
rock with all the other cockroaches. So
his MLB debut was in 1897.
Wow.
His last appearance was 1917.
Over 100 years old. Baseball card.
Yeah.
Played the same amount of years as the life expectancy back in those days.
Lived to the ripe old age of 81. He had batting average of 0.329, 101 home runs, ran in 1,732 runs. So he played for the Louisville Colonels, Pittsburgh Pirates, and then he also managed the Pittsburgh Pirates and coached them.
Okay. Yeah, long career.
Yeah. Had one World Series championship. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was also interesting to finish off on that baseball, that Field of Dreams game. There was an Aussie pitcher in that. He was pitching up the Yankees. So, yeah.
Right. I'm unaware of that. Little bit of F1. They've canned the Japanese Grand Prix.
Yes. Japan, of course, dealing with COVID, and of course, they've recently just had the Olympics there, but you kind of, how the situation with that, the bubble and etc. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think Formula One wants to deal with all that. Same reason they cancelled the Australian one. But yes, so they've cancelled the Japanese Grand Prix going forward. The next race, though, is in Belgium, and that is next weekend. It's coming back from the summer break of 2 to 3 weeks, I think, from memory. Yeah, bit of F1 next week on the potty, I think.
Yeah, it's been a few weeks. That'll be good to catch up on the world's premier motorsport there, and the golf has gotten to the business end of the PGA Tour. They're going into the FedEx Cup playoffs this week. They start in New Jersey with the Northern Trust Cup. There's only 3 weekends left and a lot of money up for grabs. 125 golfers going at it this weekend. That'll get cut down to 70 next week in Maryland and down to 30 for the Tour Championship in Atlanta in 3 weeks' time. Colin Morikawa leads the field just ahead of Jordan Spieth, Patrick Cantlay, Harris English, and John Rahm round out the top 5. Morikawa, 24 years of age. If he was to claim the FedEx Cup, will be the second youngest ever to do it. Jordan Spieth was 23 when he did it. Looking forward to some postseason golf here, lads.
Yep, definitely. And with that, I think that wraps up this week's podcast. Thank you, boys, for coming out. As always, if you enjoy this content, please consider subscribing somewhere down below. Thank you, lads. I think it's been excellent. We will chat again. As always, we will
definitely
these sports. We will definitely check them out during the week and give you a wrap up and our thoughts of all the major stories coming out from the sports across the globe.
And guess what, boys? We're locked down this weekend, but it's not that bad. because it's just an excuse to sit down in front of the telly and watch a bunch of fucking sports. So
That is very
we'll
true.
get around it, and I'll see you blokes next week for the next episode of On The Esky.
Yes.
Definitely.
50th episode today.
Yeah, 50.
Oh yeah.
Let's
2
go.
more weeks and we'll be going for a year.
Yes.
Yeah, that's wild.
Yeah.
I don't know if we should count those ones that we did in my. I reckon it starts from where we had a studio.
About the studio. Yeah, right.
Yeah,
I'll work it out and figure out when the 50th episode is for the studio episodes.
yeah.
50 in total for all of it. Anyway.
Anyways, no, it's been a pleasure, boys.
It has been fun.
Just have yourself a good Friday, and I'll see you next week.
Definitely. Thanks, boys.
Easy. Catch
See
you
ya.
up.
Bye.